And we are live once again for GRAPPL FPL Club Gameweek 36 preview / look back at what feels like 400 weeks since we last recorded. In real time, it's only been like 2.5 weeks, Jamesy, but like somehow there's been a billion game weeks. Only 3 left to go. We're here. We're in the final stretch. How do I find you, man? How's things, Jamesy?
Good. Yeah, it's been a hectic few weeks, hasn't it? It really has. It just feels like there's been Premier League non-stop like now since, I don't know, since Christmas. And then there was a World Cup, and then there was just Premier League. Like, this is the first midweek United haven't played in, I think, since well before Christmas. Madness, like, you know, it is just so compressed and so intensive. So it's at the point now where I'd be kind of glad when it's the end of the season and I can actually just have a break from it for a while. I'm blocking anyone. The first person on Twitter to start picking their team for next season, I'm just going to block straight away.
Oh, that's coming. There'll be price
I need July, August just to be no FPL whatsoever, I think, at this stage.
That's the FPL content creator summer, isn't it, Chris? It's the the price predictions. That's one they always wheel out, isn't it? It's what the
price predictor. It's who should you look for from Burnley and Sheffield United? Even though those squads are going to be completely different by the time that it all rolls around and everything. Yeah, you'll get all the nonsense content. People looking back over the years. Oh, this was the best team of 2013 and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
it's. You got to fill the void, haven't you? No World Cup or anything going on. No. I don't, no Euros competition. I don't think there's a big women's competition or anything. So unless you can do,
no, there is the World Cup, Women's World Cup.
Okay, shows how much I know.
In Australia,
I don't think it's till September.
Australia,
though. Yeah, September. Boy.
Okay, so not over the summer.
Big one, summerish.
Yeah. I was going to say, unless you can do a fantasy league of. Man United's tour of America and Abu Dhabi or something, then I don't think you've got much cop going on, have you? So
you're trying a new one, cricket FPL, Chris.
Well, yeah, that's it. I'm currently doing all right in it, so it's the future.
That's the one. No, it's weird. Like I feel like it's definitely both in that. I'm kind of sad that I'm looking at like the numbers and the fact that there is literally only 3 weeks left. Like that hurts. Like, but in general, it's like like Jamesy said, the break will be good. It's nice to get refreshed. I mean, like for you, Andy, this is the first one you've kind of taken like this seriously, isn't it? As well, it's like you must be ready to go for next year. You probably got your chips already played in your head. You know what weeks going, which is weeks 1, 2, and 3. Free hit, wild card, triple captain gone.
Free hit in the first week.
183 transfers by the middle of July, and it's only been open one day. I've really enjoyed it. Like I say, 3 weeks to go. Plenty of interest still left in it. It also feels strange, like the EFL sort of just like ended the season very, very early. And when you've got the rest of May to go, I know they've got a fit in playoffs, but I just want more football.
Yeah. That's it. But we're gonna have a withdrawal. Who were the teams coming up then? Did you say then? It's what, Sheffield Wednesday?
So Burnley won it a canter. Sheffield United and all their Manchester City youth team players managed to win, finish second place. And no bias or anything there. Then playoffs are Luton, Middlesbrough,
Millwall,
Coventry, who handballed it against us to get into the spot, and somebody else I can't remember. And Blackburn finished 7th.
Sunderland's the last one.
Sunderland, yeah. So I would expect probably Middlesbrough to come up out of those 4. They've been a good tear.
That's a recovery from Sunderland, isn't it? Like, I mean, last time I literally checked, it was like that in like League 2. Like, fair enough. Like, give them credit.
In brilliant stature, Blackburn sacked Tony Mowbray. He went to Sunderland. They're in the playoffs and we're not. So that's all worked out well for us.
Boy, it's been like the last couple of months, Chris, where Blackburn have just totally tailed off.
Yeah, we needed 2 wins out of the last 10 games to get into the playoffs, and we won 1. So
yeah,
it's
it's mainly when you've been on Sky as well. You just never seem to win when you're on the telly.
No, we had a week where Coventry scored their goalkeeper scored a handball goal in the 96th minute against us to make it 1-1, and then 2 days later we threw away a 1-0 lead against Preston in the last minute as well by scoring an own goal. So yeah, it was that week basically did us in. So it's what it is.
Tell you what you need, mate. You need some big Hollywood owners to come in and take over. I believe that's a success story, isn't it? After we.
Well, that's it.
Well, one of the things now with myself, now Rochdale's in non-league, I've started following all the non-league accounts, It's like,
Oh,
bugger that EFL off now. I'm a non-league. I'm just, getting interested in retain lists from like Eastleigh and Dorking. So it's like, I've got to do something else with my life. But it's just like, I've got to know these players for next season. And but what you're saying, like Hollywood owners, in its own, like American football has got investment in Burnley now.
Yeah,
well.
JJ Watt. Yeah,
JJ
one of the
Watt.
one of the best defensive players of all time. He recently retired. His missus plays for the women's USA football team, soccer team. So there's a connection with that. And he was over this week on the parade thing when they were doing that. He's got a bunch of money into the team. So
I feel like I've only ever heard that name in like rap lyrics. Like I run fast like JJ Watt or something like that. I'm sure
yeah, he's a
now you know what it means.
Yeah, he's a specimen of a man, and he's from a family of them. He's got two brothers that play in the NFL as well, and they're all just monsters. Right. Yeah.
Well, coming here to take over our sport as well. Did you have a tear in your eye for Wrexham, Jamesy, after watching the documentary last time? Yeah, last time. It was nice. I thought it was a nice scene. Like it was, to come across.
It's not the romantic story that some people want to paint it as. Like at the end of the day, they plowed money into it. But like you watch the documentary, and they, in fairness to the two lads, they seem reasonably genuine about the whole thing. You know what I mean? And like when you look at some of the owners like my own team in Ireland here, I've had some desperate owners over the years. Like, you know what I mean? Like this Premier League teams down that lots of people have had bad owners who've bought clubs for the wrong reason. And, in fairness to those lads, they seem to be doing it right. They seem to have the fans behind them. They're helping with the infrastructure of the stadium. They're doing all the right things. You know what I mean? So like, it's, as I said, it's not a plucky underdog story, but at the same time, it's not as bad as a lot of the stories that most fans could tell about having bad owners over the years either. You know what I mean?
I think one of the issues currently at the moment, James, is a lot of the it's like a lot of the Northwest clubs in England are having the issues with owners. Like it's in Macclesfield, they went down the leagues. Eventually, they're on the way back up. Wigan's going in administration again. You've had Bury, you've had Oldham. Rochdale, obviously, going down the division. It must be something in the air in the northwest of England where bad owners turn up.
And like I only saw a clip the other day. I think it was 10 years ago. Wigan won the FA Cup. This time 10 years ago, they beat Man City in the cup final. Look at them now. Like
was that Roberto Martinez?
Was it? I think it was Martinez, wasn't it? I think it was Ben Roberts got the winner with a header. I just saw the clip. I was like, "Fuck, was that 10 years ago?" And like, what are Wigan now?
They were decent in FPL terms, Wigan, at a point where I can't even remember what players, because Leighton Baines came from there to Everton. I remember him being like a decent prospect. But there was
Jason
a couple who were like
the one, weren't he? And Nathan Roberts.
Up front, They were like the Brighton of their time, kind of.
That's what I was going to say. They weren't quite Brighton, but they had some good wing players, and like
they would have had Antonio Valencia one season before United signed him.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, he was one of them. Yeah. There you go. They're always the gems you're looking for, aren't you? When like new teams come up and stuff, it's those types of players. Who's going to be this year's like cheapo?
4.5 mil, yeah.
That's what you want. Oh, love it. Connor saying here in the chat, I went to a site visit at Wrexham. They got loads planned. You can tell, they're getting red. Like you've been saying, Andy, the difference in quality between the league they're in and up to League One isn't much, is it? It's a championship.
No.
It's probably in their future.
Well, we were just mentioning like Luton Town, for instance. Like they were in conference in National League not so long ago, and they could be in Premiership within the space of like 10 years. It can be done like them. Brighton, you remember, they were a League Two team. But that's
James's dream, innit? Wembley weekend, Jamesy. You're not waiting for the fixtures for FPL. You're waiting for the fixtures. Okay, we're at Wembley for AEW. A Brighton at home on the Saturday, and hopefully they're playing United or something. Yeah, so you'll be on that. But is it the Stansted Express, whatever airport it is? There's an hour train. I've done it before. It's
all right. Okay, is Brighton that close to London? Yeah.
No, it's just the train's fast, isn't it? It's the Gatwick Express.
Right. Okay.
I didn't realise. Like when Riptide used to run and Joe and JP would go, in my head, I was like, I'm going to Brighton. It's the arse end of the country. And then like I was in London and we were going to something in Brighton and figured out it only takes an hour. I was like, what? How's that possible?
Okay.
Well, there you go. There and
Now
back mate, in a day.
Get to cheer on some of these double game weekers.
See, that's what we'll be doing instead of the footy, because the summer will be that, because we'll all be at Wembley and we'll all be like near the Olympic Stadium by West Ham, so we'll kind of get like the vibe of it, you know, over that weekend. Are we all going, by the way? I know you're flying over, James. Are you you going down, Chris?
Yeah, I'm sitting with Martin Bushby, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a weekend. It's gonna be like I think it's
should
gonna
be a cracker. I'm waiting on the holiday to come through, or I'm unfortunately coming down with an illness on the Monday, but we'll see which way it goes.
That's the problem, isn't it? Yeah, the Monday's
I think it's a bank holiday Monday, isn't it? So
yeah,
yeah. It's whether the trains are running in it, as Andy knows well. It's going to be the
definitely. Yeah.
God, I have to get to the airport.
What was that?
I have to get to the airport somehow on the Monday. Be grand. Typical Irish. It'll be grand.
You'll be
figure
fine.
it
You
out
don't need
somehow.
Yeah, go back to old James. You just spend the other 2 days just to, staying out. What you say, you're away from the family and stuff. You can
don't go to bed for 2 days and just stay out all night. It'll be grand. Walk to the airport or something silly like that. That's what old Jamesy would have done.
That's like a plan. It's a shame if Riptide were running, you could have got them in as well on the big weekend.
True enough.
Well. Yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on them as we'll all be down there, as I'm sure many of the viewers will be. But yeah, we should get into matters FPL. I was going to say because it has been a few game weeks or so since we last recorded, and probably won't spend too much time on the older game weeks as we kind of go through. Maybe I'll just run through what people's scores were from the individual weeks, and then you guys can highlight how you've I suppose the bigger weeks from those ones. And I know, Jamesy, we'll go to you first, mate, because you've got a few. Because I already know what I'm going to title this episode. It's going to be whatever your current rank is, just to give us some credibility. Whatever that number is, 630 or something.
Some stranger might see it and think we know what we're doing or something.
There you go. That's it. We might go because we are taught as well, just to throw it out there as well to folks. We are looking at potentially doing a stream on the final day, and maybe live watching the games. And as we talked about in our little our pre-chat, we might that might depend on Andy's telly, because Andy's got like a mega satellite somewhere in Rochdale. It means his scores all come in like 2 minutes before the rest of us. So we'll figure out the technical details, but I think we can do it. I think we can pull it off. Be a good laugh. Few beers in the afternoon. Double or nothing afternoon as well. It'd be a good time.
You can be our Jeff Stelling, Andy.
I can be, yeah. But the thing is,
I'm hearing there's a goal at.
We'll be like, hang on. Okay, just got it.
But the thing is, if I have like Sky Bet on my phone, that's about 20-30 seconds ahead of what's on Sky TV, so I can even get it quicker, the scores that way. Always technology in Rochdale.
So there you go. Don't spend the final day watching Soccer Saturday. Get ready for Double or Nothing with us live on YouTube and some fun. I'm looking for punishment to spend 20 hours editing a music podcast this week, and now I'm going to try and do a live stream on the day of the final FPL game week. But it'll be fun. It'll be a laugh. We'll keep it casual. Maybe have some guests flying in for it as well. So yeah, folks can look forward to that. But yeah, I was going to have a look at Jamesy's team over the last few. Time for Jamesy to brag. I'll just run through how you did since we last recorded, and you can pick out some highlight weeks. Jamesy, obviously 85 in the old free hit 32, which paid off for you after our long discussion last time we recorded. That was into 84 for game week 33. Another really strong week in what looked like a bit of a boring week. That one, game week 34, the big game week where a lot of people pulled a lot of chips out. None for you there, Jamesy, and you went straight through that one with flying colours with the 115 points into last game week with game week 35 where the less said, the better. 36 points, which says their average 39. I think literally everyone's team I've seen anywhere is like between 35 and 42. Everyone got the same points. But, don't think that one affected your rank too much, Jamesy. But, don't know if there's any highlights you want to pick out from the story of your last few game weeks.
The free hit was a great one. I think that was my best week. Like my week rank was 5th. I think that was by far my best week of the season. And we had a good discussion about it. We had talked about that, and then I was
I was wrong.
We were finalizing our teams, and I came off that podcast, and it's good to talk things out sometimes, and it kind of clarified in my mind, because remember there were people thinking, should they go for Jesus up front?
Yeah.
And then there was talk of, should we have an Arsenal defender? And I kind of came off that call thinking, I'm just going to put good assets on the pitch that have good fixtures, and I'm not, and traditionally good assets, like instead of having Jota up front, I went with the two Liverpool defenders, which worked out. They didn't keep a clean sheet, but they both got assists. I did the triple Arsenal midfield, because I think all season it's been at least one of those three have been going off at any given time. It's been one of the three of them. I think that match was that bonkers Southampton game on the Friday night, wasn't it?
That was
all three of them scored, and there was assists from, I think, Saka as well. So that went really well. Captain was okay. Got Salah as the captain, which most people had, so it was fine. Kane. The big differential really was Isak. Was going for him. I think he
got in early there.
He was quite low owned, and it was either him or Jesus basically. So when I didn't go for him up front and went for the three Arsenal, I had to have a third striker, and I can't remember who it was Newcastle played, but that went really well. Literally, Spurs. It was they hammered Spurs, yeah. So that was a mad game. They were 4-0 up after 15 minutes or something like that. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So you can't. And free hits for me in general, I usually don't do them well. They usually go badly for me. But this is by far the best free hit I've ever played. Literally everyone on the team returned except Trippier and Watkins. The keeper, John Stone, you pick a Palace goalkeeper, he pulls out a 10.
That one hurt.
Pulls out a 10-pointer. You're like, God, my luck is in this week. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was phenomenal.
Remember when I thought I could cover that week, Jamesy, with with a couple of hits, thought I'd be fat sounds. Didn't turn out to be true, and it was people like Johnston. It was basically Johnston and the obviously the Arsenal lads and Isaac going off that did it. But that was that
week. That pick was so annoying, because it was suddenly that week the IWC pick, and everyone's like, "Oh, Johnston," and I was like, I went with Leno, and I was like, that feels like a much better and safer pick, and then Fulham concede to Leeds and Johnston pulls in a 10-pointer. I was just like, you hate when it comes off, when everyone's just like, oh yeah, Johnston's going to have it. It's like, when's he ever had a great week? When have Palace ever been solid defensively? Yeah. Just like
Pereira on the bench with 10 as well, Jamesy. Unbelievable.
That's right, yeah. And he, a lot of people got him off their bench because there was somebody highly owned that didn't play. I can't remember now, but yeah. And then the following week, then Tyrone Mings was my hero of this week. This
said that a few times.
It's I've had him in my squad since my wild card in 25, I think it was. And it's the weeks I've picked him, he's done brilliant. He scored and he kept a clean sheet. And it was like, fucking, this is just dreamland. It felt like just every single pick I made for those couple of weeks was just paying off. You know what I mean? It was just play Tyrone. I benched Luke Shaw, United defender for him, so it was like, okay, that was a bit of a call. And literally it was just him that week. There wasn't a whole lot. The week after was, and at that point my rank had really gone mental. I think I was at 400 or something like that. And I was like, okay,
434th in the world. You heard James going into that week.
It was mad. So I was like, okay. And then the next week was the double week. And it was, I had a bit of a problem that week with my funds. I wanted Trent and Salah, but I got priced. People were making transfer. It was a week where people were wildcarding. I don't know what happened, but the prices just went haywire that week. And my team value dropped by about 0.8 million or something crazy like that in the space of the week. And I went from being able to get the transfers I wanted for a -4 to needing a -8. But I'm at the point now where I'm just basically trying to cover off highly owned people at this point. And I'm playing cowardly defensive FPL. I have no problem doing it. It's like being a 1-0 up in Europe and putting everybody behind the ball and just defending your lead kind of at this stage. And I was like, I have to take this -8 to get Trent in, because if I hadn't had him that week, it would have been a rank killer,
Especially in a week, like you say, where a lot of people were playing chips. You just have to go for it.
Exactly. And I dropped a little bit. It was like 115 is a great score. I think it actually was a red arrow. A little bit, maybe 20% red arrow or something like that. But it was fine. I had no problem. It wasn't catastrophic, and I covered off the people I should have covered off really, you know. So it was fine. There was no major issue there. And then last week was a nothing week, but I think, as you said, Benno, it was a nothing week for everybody. I think 36 to 42 was the range. I was at the slightly lower end of that. Little bit of a red arrow again. You know, March not getting started.
Yeah, that was
Brighton conceding 6. Fucking hell! Like where did that come from? You know, I avoid like, but there were people who had minuses from defenders this week. Like, wasn't there? There was like Steele, as you know from the draft, Benno. I had Steele and ended up losing from a winning position somehow. There was another defender. Yeah, there was some other defender got sent off or something that people had. There was another minus, so I avoided all those. No catastrophic. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There were things happened, but like nobody, there was no massive differential that people had that would have skyrocketed their rank or anything like that. So it was fine. Again, another nice, safe week. Dropped a bit in rank, like, but Jesus, like,
look at that, Jamesy.
I know it's madness. Like, honestly, all I've been looking at for the last 3 or 4 weeks is not the 1,000, but can I stay in the top 10,000? And then that 32, 33, it was like, fuck, what is happening here? Like, this is getting out of hand at this point. And if I can stay within the top 1,000 now, like I'd be over.
It was 32 we were going into when we last recorded. So yeah, obviously we were getting nosebleeds from you being in the thousands.
I've never in my life been inside.
3 digits.
Like I finished 60,000 a couple of years ago, and like that was beyond my wildest dreams. Like that was like fucking hell. That was a great year. Last season I was 200,000. I was happy with that. I'd never been near the top 10k before. Like, so this is mad stuff. Like, it really is.
So basically, folks, listen to Jamesy and none of the rest of us, especially. That's what we've learned. I think it's the power of the podcast, Jamesy. We've said it.
Maybe it is. Keeps me honest. Yeah. It does. I have to say though, it does help to talk things out and to because like I was very all over the place on like that free hit has been the key one. That free hit in 32. Yeah. And like I had about 10 different options coming into the podcast that night. We were due to kind of finalize our plans on the Friday the next day, and I didn't know what to do. I had about 3 or 4 different plans, and they all seemed equally good to me. But like having talked it out with you guys, I just had a moment of clarity after the podcast, and I went, no, I'm going to go with this guy. I'm going to get the 3 Arsenal midfielders, 2 Liverpool defenders, throw in a couple of differentials, and it just, so yeah, definitely. It's good to talk these things out and kind of make yourself justify why you're doing something. And when you actually say it out loud, you go, actually, that is a good plan, or actually, I'm actually talking shite here. I'm trying to convince myself of something that's not actually a good idea, you know, that kind of a way. So it is good to actually discuss these things, you know.
Now I'm scared though. I don't want to ruin it for you, because there's definitely been like, I remember Fantasy Football Scout having like the #1 in the world on like at some point in the season. And it's like I remember the guy being really protective about like what he was talking about, because he was like, the sharks around me, you're going to be listening to this. You know
that's
what I mean?
The problem.
Like...
Yeah, I can't imagine, because like definitely I have felt a bigger element of pressure the last few weeks than before. I can't imagine what it would be like to be #1. Like, imagine going into Gameweek 38 and be #1.
I think the same guy's been #1 for weeks as well at this stage.
Yeah, I think he's quite far clear. It's like 15 points or something now.
I was just having a look. Yeah, he's 102 points ahead of you, and you're only 600 positions behind him, which is ridiculous. But yeah, he's got a
16 point gap.
Yeah, 16 point gap at the minute.
Wow.
But yeah, he's been on a load of podcasts and stuff I've seen on YouTube recently, just like popping up as world's #1. Tells you why he's tells you what things not to do or whatever.
But you look at that defense, what he's got. He's like Lindelof, man of steel in net. He's got -2.
Sorry, how'd you get a 6.7 million game week rank and still be #1?
Still be #1.
No,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Paid him off, Annie.
I remember seeing on one of his interviews, he'd left his chips really late. He hadn't used anything until past, I think week 32 was probably like 34. He used his wild card, it looks like.
Right.
And 32 he used the free hit, so he hadn't been using chips for ages. So yeah, he'd just been
be watching you back for Jamesy, hopefully, but like still like crazy.
Yeah, that must be some pressure.
Oh, it must be. It must
To
be.
know
And
the
that's
whole
the thing.
world is watching, like literally every podcast is like talking about your team and going, "Oh, how come he has
Yeah.
Lindelof and how come he has this guy?" And
Because
mad,
it's those small
mad.
decisions, isn't it? And if you let yourself get swayed by the wrong thing, or you listen to the wrong advice, or one of us says something stupid to you today, Jamesy, you know,
I've made my transfers for this week, so it's grand.
All right,
Well,
we'll
the-
take
It's all
them.
good.
I was going to say
It's all good.
the Lindelof thing is similar to your when you had Martinez, in that
Yeah.
like everybody was going for Shaw and you went for Martinez because you're still going to cover the same defensive points. But when Martinez scored that header, you got a massive boost,
Yeah.
and everyone that had Shaw didn't, and that sort of thing.
And
And sometimes it is picking the differential from within the own team can be the big thing.
And it was only because I couldn't afford Shaw that literally I remember I had to get I really had to get Rashford and Shaw in a particular week because they were really starting to do. United were keeping clean sheets, and I couldn't afford them, and I was like, what's the next best thing? And it's get the guy who's playing centre back every week, you know.
Yeah,
Been killing it, mate. Told you I've got my little spreadsheet I have in work, and Jamesy's still at the top of that even since game week 23 when I started counting. And it's funny just seeing the points start up. It's like you're already in a strong position, and somehow it keeps going. So yeah, long may it rain, mate, and hopefully we can you can expel some of that wisdom today on the podcast. And yeah, listen to Jamesy, folks. He's the one who knows what he's talking about. We haven't had Chris yet. We didn't have you on last time, so we're a little bit behind on your team. I suppose we'll take it from 32 onwards, where we left off last time. With like I say, you were quite unique in taking the free hit in game week 32, netted you 60 points that week. You went through into game week 33 with a very respectable 91 points for that week in the top 100,000 as far as game week rank goes, even with a -8. Into 34, which again was the big double game week. Took a -4 to get a 104, which may be slightly on the lower end of, but considerably using.
Yeah, it was one of those where you looked at it and you were like, oh, I've got in the 100 club again, and I was just like, actually, it's not that good of a score.
Yeah,
I think it was killed because I went De Bruyne and everybody went Salah, I think, that week, and then De Bruyne didn't play at all, so that was always a bit of a killer.
It was a good risk, wasn't it, De Bruyne? Like, if you were gonna, not many of those people playing chips had him in their squad. So for you, without a chip to go for it, that's one of them small margins, isn't it? That could have really,
it really paid off the previous week, which was the week I brought him in for, and he got the 19-pointer, and Haaland got a 14-pointer, and I had him as captain and stuff. And that's when they beat Arsenal. Yeah, it's
4-1. Oh god, yeah. Remember that game when it was the game of the season? It was all building up to, and then Arsenal just didn't turn up.
Yeah, horrible. It was all over in about 10 minutes, wasn't it? I think everybody was.
It's just a complete damn squib, wasn't
it? Yeah, but yeah, just quickly run over things. Free hit 32. It was fine, like 60 points. Could have been more if I'd have picked Andreas to start over Eze, because Eze was on that hot streak. And Andreas was just first bench choice. Salah had one return. Saka had a decent game. That was about it, really. I had Nico Williams on the bench, but he was never really going to come onto the pitch, like getting to the starting lineup for me. So it was much of a muchness there. And then I was just saying 91 the following week, mainly down to the City boys. Kane, who's been in the team throughout for me, notched another one. Rashford again. That's really about it. Getting returns.
Scoring against United to remind them to buy him in the summer. That's what he's thinking. That. That's been a rumour for about 10 years, that, Jamesy. Is it ever actually going to happen?
It could happen this season, but you don't know with Kane. He'd probably sign a new contract. I'd love it to happen. There's people humming and hawing about it, like, but one thing United need is to be more clinical, like, and this guy is playing in a dog shit Spurs team, like, and as you know, having owned him for a long time, Chris, he's a goal and assist every single week.
Yeah, he's returned in 80% of the games he's played this year. So I mean, any player the only other player in that level's Haaland. Like,
if it wasn't for Haaland, if Haaland didn't exist, he'd be captain every week, like, and everyone would have him. He'd be 100% owned, like, yeah,
exactly. He's still one of the big point scorers for the year and everything. He just, obviously, that Spurs team somehow still in the top 6 or whatever, but they don't feel like they're a good team.
It's just him.
No.
He's their best creative player, and he's their centre forward. Like it's actually bonkers what he does for that team. Like
the only annoying thing about him is because I'm looking at like random people I want to get in like this. I want to start taking punts. He's not really a 1 week punt kind of player, is he? He's just slow and steady, wins the race, which has paid off for you, hasn't it, Chris? Having him
I think it's really worked for me. I think initially was thinking you'd probably need 2 premiums in midfield, but then with the emergence of so many good £7 and £8 million midfielders this year in the midfield, I think moving to 2 premiums up front and 1 in the middle has not been too bad. I know a lot of people are kind of moving more towards a 4-5-1 or a sort of formation as the season's gone on, but I feel like having 2 premiums up top's not been a bad strategy.
Worked out for you, and like you say, 34 was a bit of a disappointment for you, but again, in the grand scheme of things, not too much of a big slip. Any big thoughts on that or 35 this past game week? 34 was fine in the end. Just above average. I think I dropped places, even though I. Actually, no. I think that's when I just snuck into the top million, and then. Yeah, it didn't really pay off. I mean, obviously, De Bruyne not playing was an issue, but not really much you can do about the old Pep roulette. And then this week, nothing. The news. I was working on the Saturday, and I think the news about Grealish not starting and Mahrez starting was coming through just as my lunch break was finishing. So there wasn't really time for me to change anything over, which I probably wouldn't have done anyway because. I prefer. I still sometimes want to play players that I prefer as opposed to players I should get. So I prefer Grealish over Mahrez, even if he wasn't playing for some reason. But Estupiñán not returning was disappointing, and obviously they conceded 5. And then March not starting, coming on, getting injured, and then getting subbed off was a bit of a killer. What did he even mean? He's not in his best moment right now, was the quote, wasn't it? What did that mean? Is he injured? Is he not playing well? Are they all just, because we're going to get on to Brighton today, are they all just fucking knackered? Because that's what it seems like.
I think so, yeah. It seems that way, doesn't it? Like, they've not even had, barring the FA Cup, they've not really had additional fixtures. It's not like West Ham where they're playing in Europe every other week and that sort of thing. It's
these doubles
a strange one,
I think it's funny, these doubles are coming thick and fast, and I think, obviously when we talk about players we're bringing in, we're going to have to talk about Brighton. But I do think people are kind of missing the fact that if they are tired, and if they did just let Everton get that many past them, like, surely having 4 games over the next 2 game weeks probably isn't actually a positive. You know what I mean?
Well, plus they play that high tempo football, don't they? And they're only. I would say they're a smallish squad, but they seem to keep bringing players through who no one knows about. But probably that case with high tempo football doing them in.
I think March has got 75% chance there, Chris. Like, I would have thought he'd just be ruled out entirely by this point.
I thought so as well. I was surprised it's still the but I suppose they've not said anything in a press conference yet, so that's generally what the FPL go off.
I don't trust the official website anyway.
No, you can't.
You'll often see a player on a red, and next thing they start anyway. So like they're very slow to take on information and update those. So you have to go by press conferences and what's his name, Ben Dinnery on Twitter is quite good for injuries and that kind of thing.
The better at sending emails out now, like, because I'm getting those emails now. Which Newcastle striker should everyone get this week? And it's like, come on, don't be telling the lads from work.
Those damn casuals.
Yeah, feed them information. It's unbelievable.
But yeah, that's it really. Just kind of stumbling into this next week. Ideally, I wasn't going to have to use a transfer on March, but that's kind of thrown the spanner in the works. So that's about it really. The other thing's just been, I guess, De Gea. I'm not really sure that's punts played off.
No, I got him too. Same thing. It's disappointing.
I'm sure Jamesy will have. Well, yeah, they've got that.
Double clean sheet in the last one. Wasn't the last double they got 2 clean sheets?
Yeah, I don't know if I had him into that one.
I've had him since 31. He's had 2 clean sheets and 3 no clean sheet type of thing. So
I was watching. I was watching Match of the Day just before we were coming on, and that one he let in against West Ham was didn't fill me with a lot of confidence. But
No.
You want him out, don't you, James? You want him gone?
I just think it's not even that kind of mistake. It's more when you watch United week in, week out, like I do, and you just see that he's just not equipped for the style of football that I think Ten Hag would ultimately want to play. He's just not.
Yeah, it's like when Arsenal brought in Ramsdale, and everyone was like, "Well, the guy he's replacing is a perfectly good goalkeeper." He was like, "Yeah, he is, but he doesn't fit the style of playing out from the back and that sort of thing." And that's why they brought Ramsdale in.
Yeah,
it'll be the similar sort of situation at United. They'll find a keeper that can use his feet a bit better.
But there's talk of them giving him a new contract, which I like on a reduced rate, fine. But you're still talking giving him 200 grand a week for a sub keeper. It's a bit like and his contract is up. This is I don't know why United aren't ruthless and just like remember when Pep came into Man City and he didn't like Joe Hart, and Joe Hart was gone the end of the first season, and he signed a guy from Spain, which everybody thought would be his type of keeper, and he turned out to be rubbish. And again, he was gone within that season. He just got rid of him again. They spent a lot of money on him. He was gone, and then they got Ederson, and he's been his keeper ever since. But there's just no sense of ruthlessness at United, and I don't understand it. It's just I could talk all night about how badly run United are, but straying off topic very badly.
Well, yeah, we got a couple of questions in the chat. I'll save one of them for a bit. Eddie Casey. We've also got FPL Rubber Ducky in the chat saying quack quack. Great to see you, FPL Rubber Ducky.
With people we don't know in the chat, Jesus,
it's amazing. It's the rank, Jamesy. It's the top 600 rank. That's what it's going to do. So Eddie asks firstly what to do with March. He's got 2.1 in the bank. I think we're going to be doing extensive stuff on March replacements. I think the name McAllister's going to come up a lot, but yeah, we're going to get into that in a bit. But we can answer the other part right now. Mahrez in for Grealish, he's asking. I did that last week, so to go to Chris's point before about not being able to do it before the deadline. I got it in before the deadline with that benefit of that little extra information. See, the lads in the work league might be getting their emails, but they're not sat listening to content creators at once, refreshing on Twitter on a Saturday afternoon, the losers. So yeah, I managed to get 10 points on that one, getting Mahrez in for Grealish. So it paid off for me, and I think Mahrez more likely to start against Everton this weekend, considering Grealish just played in the Champions League and they've got the second leg coming up at 1-1.
He is this week, but the problem with Man City is you can't keep buying players just for 1 week, because you say Mahrez does play this week, fine, but then there's a double coming up, and City are chasing hard. You know what I mean? So he's probably going to play his best team in both of those games, you'd imagine, and try and get the thing done. And Grealish has played 95% of Premier League games. He is very much in his best team. So I don't know. I don't think anybody can definitively say go buy this Man City player instead of this Man City player, because we don't know.
1 week, once in it, basically.
And this week, your bench, most people's benches are very, very strong. So you could just hold Grealish, bench him. Most people have 5 good defenders now. We're still not far from the bench boost. If I had Grealish, I'd probably hold him and play someone else this week. If you don't think he's going to start, because if you keep flipping City players, that's your transfer every week. You know what I mean? And that's cutting off other options.
It works for me getting Mahrez in for Grealish because I've got my free hit. I'm going to be using him 37 for the City double.
Yeah.
Grealish probably back.
Definitely, yeah.
But that's me basically being I need Mahrez 1 week against Everton. He's probably going to play. He's probably going to do well. That works for me. But you're probably right there, James, with the double in mind. If there's no chips in the bank, then you probably prefer Grealish in your squad. And if you go with that, Chris.
Yeah, my thought is I'm keeping Grealish, but I'm probably keeping him on the bench and playing a Newcastle midfielder ahead of him for the double. And then when City have the double the following week. Yeah, I think you keep him then. I think you transfer, you don't, because you've only got a finite amount of transfers left now. You don't want to be using one to reverse it next week. Like you say, if you've got the free hit, it's perfectly fine. But you don't want to go, I'm going to get rid of Grealish for Mahrez this week and chase the hope that Mahrez starts because Grealish played in the Champions League and they've got Real fairly soon as well. Grealish can play a lot of games. They've put a lot of this tail end of the season, they've shifted obviously from Foden being the focal point of one of the wingers to Grealish taking that role, and then everybody else kind of rotates around him. it feels like Grealish will play more. You got more chance, I think, of Grealish playing than Mahrez, but I don't know. It's a coin flip, isn't it, with Pep? So I probably wouldn't make that transfer and try and get in 3 Newcastle and 3 Brighton and just play the double game weeks. And if you get a player that plays in both of those double game weeks, they'll probably outscore what Grealish or Mahrez gets in a single game week against Everton, I'd have thought.
Yeah.
Joe Linton, Bruno Guimaraes, ASM's back, but I don't think he'll play both games. So one of them two, maybe Willock or whatever.
There's options in that price range, isn't there? Like I say, we'll go into the kind of the midfield options in a bit. FPL Rubber Ducky does say in the chat, March has fallen in price tonight, and McAllister has risen. It's probably a yes on that being a good move, but we'll go through some other alternatives in a little bit. Eddie says he's got two transfers in the bank, so you go an extra one and a few there. But yeah, I think that makes sense. But yeah, we'll circle back round to that. I get appetite is whetted now to go through the future plans. We'll keep our team run throughs a bit quick, Andy, for me and you. But should we go through? We'll do you first. Your week over your last few weeks over time without chips. You've managed to get through it, mate. It's not been too painful for you with a 59 in game week 32. Wasn't too bad overall considering 2 million in the world that week.
Saka were the main one there that week. That Southampton game,
bit of a differential for you there. That's it into 33, 91 points, which again, strong score for what looked like a relatively boring week going in. Obviously, the Haaland captain, but Kane and Rashford being heroes for you there. And there's that man Mings again.
As good man. Said. I think me and Chris were joint top in the old GRAPPL league that week for score 91 points. Now it was fantastic score that especially when you see me bench. I think all the right choices there.
But that doesn't happen often, does it? How often would that have been? I mean, that was. I mean, looking at that, that's brave. Bench Saka there. I know they were playing City, but I'll show you my team in a minute. I went the other way and thought that was going to be a high scoring game with both teams scoring 3. So yeah, maybe I was just or maybe I was just hoping for primetime entertainment rather than using my logic brain.
But yeah, what it were that week as well, Benno, was I brought in Bobby Sanchez that week, thinking, because he'd played him in the cup, and I think the league game before that, thinking, he might be the keeper now going forward. So I had him in, and lo and behold, Man of Steel ended up back in. So I got Ray now. So Ray 9 points off the bench. So it wasn't too bad, that one. This one's this is the one that was did like bench boosts and all that, didn't they? So I think it was always going to be the week where I'd probably be hurt. Had that shit house in net, Ederson.
We have to talk about him.
Have we not talked about him yet?
No. Fucker. Oh God! I think it's the last two weeks I've had him in. Yeah, and it's just unbelievable with City. You think they've got like this great defence and what have you, and lo and behold, they always get one put past them. I think it was when they were against Leeds on Saturday. Me and Jeff were in pub watching it, and it's like Leeds have not got a chance against these. 85th minute, you're thinking 6 points. We're in here. No, 2-1. You bugger. He's straight into the troll 11 at the end of the season, and James.
Possibly the captain at this stage.
Possibly captain.
People are shipping him off, and he's got a double coming up. It's brilliant. It's like can't deal with him.
The greatest bit about his troll credentials was that Ortega came in for one game, kept a clean sheet, and that was it. It's just like, that's how easy it is, Ederson. You just make one save a game and you get a clean sheet, and just like somehow Ederson gets one shot against him and he just can't get to it. It's just bizarre.
And the main reason we have him is because we thought the one member of their defense who we know will play every single game, because if you pick one of their centre backs, they can randomly be dropped for 2 games, or they can come out.
Okay,
you think exactly. Like so, I said I'm not touching any outfield defenders of theirs because it's just you don't know when you'll get them dropped or when they'll play. You're stressing about it every week. Play Ederson. Yes, I knew all the dangers. I knew it's a 6-point ceiling. It's a 2-point floor. There's no, like, you don't get 10 point. You don't get that 10-pointer that Johnston does because Palace concede loads of shots, so the keeper is busy. So like, it's like, fuck, it's just, and like they used to do it in seasons gone by. They'd shut teams out, but I just think they're so dominant at the moment that they actually just get a little bit, they relax.
They just switch off in the last 15.
Yeah, like
because you're already winning. Yeah, you're winning 4-0. So what does it matter if you concede one? But I assume you were just going to say the Leeds one. They just missed the penalty, and Leeds scored to make it 2-1.
And they
that could have gone very wrong.
You could tell the team had relaxed because they faffed about with the penalty as well and gave it to Gundogan instead of Haaland just taking it and sticking it. So you could tell they were just cigars out, put the feet up. And
Pep's reaction to that, Jamesy, on the bench, like, you should have taken it. You should have taken it.
That was me. We were all saying that. Yeah, because we all had Haaland as well. Like, so it was like, just Ederson. Yeah, he's. We'll talk about it when the transfers come around.
Yeah, it's an odd one though, because you kind of like if you just look at the stats, like City's obviously XGA is what they're conceding doesn't match up to what you expect them to at all. And it's you see it with strikers though, you've seen it with Mitoma and that sort of thing, where they're performing so high above their XGA that now they're coming back to the mean. It doesn't feel like City are coming back to the mean though. It feels like they're just always conceding. It's just like it's just bizarre.
We're running out of time now.
Yeah, that's it. It's like,
I bought them a few weeks ago, assuming the clean sheets would come, but they just haven't. And now there's only 3 weeks left.
The clean sheets will all be next year now. Like,
they'll keep 10 in a row now or something in the first 10. No one will touch them because they'll be like, no way.
I was going to say on the Haaland point, I think the good thing though is they're like looking at Andy's team. It's the same as everyone else's team. Haaland blanked and didn't really matter. The only thing that hurt about that was like, oh well, I probably, if I'm looking about taking risks, it might have been a week to take a risk, but outside like a salad.
Well, I think my score though, 50 points, was very good for that week. I did put I stuck John Stones in because he'd been in good form for a couple of weeks and bloody Pep dropped in, didn't it? But coming in for John Stones was Virgil van Dijk, who was my first sub, so I got 11 points there.
Take that.
Yeah, a great one for me over the last. I think I got in on the right time was Trent. He's been excellent since he moved him in midfield. Really done well. I'm trying to think who else.
He's a midfielder, really, isn't he? The Liverpool fans don't like hearing that, but he is.
Yeah.
Gareth Southgate's right about some things. Anyway,
I stuck Solly March in because triple Brighton, thinking against Everton they'll get a panful. Bloody hell, that went wrong, didn't it? And he's being transferred out of my team this week. One who's been poor over the last few weeks, and I don't know. I persisted with him, even though I should have gone with the two who I booted out my team, which is Saka. I should have just gone for an Odegaard or a Martinelli over the last few weeks. Saka, it's 3-2-1.
But they do shifts, Andy. They do shift work, these lads.
They do shift work.
You know what's coming, Jamesy. Saka's going to step up next week. I'm literally considering it for my transfers. There's no logic to it. XG-wise, form-wise, Saka shouldn't be going off next week. I'm convinced I should get him. I'm like, you know what? It's his turn.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass the baton.
There has been one hot hand in the Arsenal midfield at any given time. Yeah. And it's been really hard and it's been totally unpredictable who it will be. And like slight little shifts in the dynamic of the team have changed it. Like, remember when Nketiah was playing up front and it really affected Martinelli badly because Nketiah stays in the box and it kept Martinelli wide. I think now that they're back to their older formation, I think it's affected Saka a little bit because I think it's almost like Jesus and Martinelli dominate the central areas and Saka has to stay a bit wider. It's very intricate, their team, and it's all when one player moves slightly out of position in that team, someone else moves in, and it's a bit of a balancing act. Like, it's very hard to predict. You can see it. You can look back and see how it's happened, but you can't look into the future and predict it. Unfortunately, it's really difficult.
James, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago with Granit Xhaka. He got 3 assists.
Yeah.
I think with Zinchenko out of the team now, obviously it kind of changes the defensive dynamic of where they were playing 3 at the back and he'd slip into the midfield sort of thing. now that he's gone, Kieran Tierney doesn't do it as well, so they don't do it as often. So that obviously changes where Xhaka goes. Xhaka goes further forward, and he prefers to play left centre, whole sort of thing. And Jesus comes out. So yeah, everyone kind of just throws out. It's the same with Brighton and how like Pascal Gross will suddenly have a 14-pointer because he's playing in a slightly different role, or like Mac Allister is like not scoring points because he's been dropped back into a 6 or an 8 sort of thing instead of playing as a 10. Yeah, it's you can't really tell until the team sheet comes out as to where those people are going, and by that time it's already too late.
That's the problem. It's getting on them at the right times. But overall, no, it's got to be said, Andy. Very strong game week 35.
I've had two green arrows, but I think it's getting to that stage of the season now, Benno, where I'm mid-table rubbish. I'm just sticking around that million and a half range. I'm not going up or down, to be honest. I'll be happy with that
next year, mate.
It is.
Which is what I'm telling myself as well. I'll run through my lot. Like I say, I won't spend too much time on Game Week 32 because it's a painful memory. As we talked at length last time we recorded about not doing the free hit. In the end, all that conversation didn't really mean much. My Arsenal players did turn up. Salah turned up. Overall, I probably would have been happy. But it was, like you say, that your Johnstons of the world and a couple of others that like just popped up for those template free hit teams really paid off. And it put me 30 points behind the pace and probably, if I'm honest, killed me season. Even though I've got, the little things I can chase for now. But it was that was a rough week. So that one hurt a bit. 33 was fine enough. 56 points in that week with the Haaland captain, like everyone else, slightly disappointed to bench March, but not much to say about that. Solanke turned up for me. Was one of my Game Week 32 transfers. Game Week 34, I was very happy, as I constantly remind everybody in our chat. This was the qualifying
the Haaland triple captain,
yeah. Finally used it, Jamesy. Finally spent a chip. I learnt my lesson.
Used it well as well.
Just a bit late. Yeah, I was made up, and it always for me felt like, I know a lot of people went Rashford. It's one of the 20 game weeks, wasn't it? I wanted the Haaland one, and it felt like there were going to be 2 opportunities coming up. So I'm very happy with that. Unfortunately, again, it was a bit of a gain, but not that much, because I think a lot of people, even without triple captain, did quite well that week. There were a lot of 100+ point scores anyway. But still, in another week, in another time, it might have gone even better for me, because I was very, very happy with my team. Again, looking at that bench kind of hurts. I joked at the time, I wish I could have bench boosted and triple captain in the same week. Solanke on 8, Ake on 15, the fucking troll, after disappearing. Turned up for the second game in a double game week, got nothing in the first one. He didn't play. 15. In one game, he got 15 points and eclipsed pretty much. I suppose it was only Robertson I could have benched them
against West Ham.
Yeah, that kind of was the 1-for-1. So that could have improved things. But all in all, 128 points.
What made you think of Martial that week?
It was a money issue more than anything. It was just, I was thinking of going for Isaac early and going that route. But it was one of those typical FPL situations where you're either 0.1 or 0.2 off the exact move you want to make. So you kind of have to bargain with yourself. And that's why I went that route. I did regret that a little bit.
That was the week the prices went haywire.
Yeah, that was exactly it, Jamesy. Same as you. Got
Salah, and people wanted Salah and Trent, who were super expensive compared to people at their level. So it was. I got stung by money that week as well. Yeah,
that's an odd one though, because wild cards usually don't affect transfer prices.
I don't know what it was that week, but like I remember I was on FPL team on the Monday of that week, and I was like, great, I can get Salah, I can get Trent, and I was quite happy to take a -4 to get them. And then I went back on again on the Wednesday, and I was like 0.3 away from it. I was like, what the fuck has happened here? Like,
because there has to be
it was a mass exodus of people selling Kane and buying Salah, and then I think there was also someone else got an injury, someone highly owned, and other people were having to sell them as well.
Because I remember when Grealish went up 3 times in a week in price, and there was a bit that came out. I can't remember where it was from, but it was the threshold doubles each time. So if somebody's changing in price, so say it's like 10, the next it's 20, and the next it's 40. So there has to be, a huge amount of transfers.
Yeah, it was. I don't know what it was about that week, Yeah, and I think Trent just shot up in price, and Salah the same. And I don't know, was there some highly owned player got an injury and everybody had to sell them? I can't remember what it was about that week, but it was just bonkers. It was crazy.
One of those weeks.
Yeah,
You're right to point that out, though. Did not want Martial in that team, and I regret him. He's staring me in the face as a transfer out this week, definitely.
I'll get rid of him.
Yeah. It's one of those 3 weeks a season that he's actually fit and able to play.
Yeah.
So
just get rid of him. Just as a point of principle, just get rid of him, just so you don't have to look at him. Sometimes you just have to do that. Just can't look at this fella anymore. Just get rid of him.
I think it's coming.
Just move him down to Greenwood and be done with it. It was like, I'll take
that's
them on
what
it.
he was. Yeah. That was the annoying thing. I had that plan, and like James, knows, on the last show, I taught myself out of my original plan and went another route. And like I say, 34 was great. 35 was a little bit above the average. Like I say, made up. I brought Mahrez in last minute over Grealish. That got me, 10 points.
Score, 45.
10-point leg up. Not quite as good as Andy, but definitely a strong week. So I was happy with that. Wish I'd played Robertson over Ake, who again, the troll didn't quite make the full 60 minutes, even when I suppose he wouldn't have got a clean sheet at the end of the day, but still, if he'd gone off injured on 63 minutes, I still would have got one. So what are you going to do? But yeah, I think the lesson I've kind of learned over these last few weeks was, should have played that 3 hit. I know that's an obvious thing to say, but it wasn't even, as I think we kind of talked about at the time, James, and I'm sure you've said before, Chris, it's not necessarily about that week. I was focused so hard on, well, no one's going to get that much anyway. I'll be somewhere amongst the average if these eight or nine players do all right, it'll be fine. And it went wrong because, that didn't work out to be the case. But the bigger problem was it broke my team because I spent transfers to bring players in to get them that week. And if I'd have just free hitted, I'd have a stronger team the week before, and I would have had a stronger team the week after. And that's sometimes the thing about the free hit escape check.
It was very template, which I know you were opposed to being a part of. But at a certain point, to try and save your rank, you kind of need to be template sort of thing. Sometimes, probably not at the sort of level that we're at, but when you're at James's level, you kind of need to worry about EO and templateness and all that sort of thing, so you can defend your rank.
Template's a template for a reason as well, aren't they? That's why everyone went that week, and it was the right call. Like I say, wasn't just about the week. So that's a lesson I'll take into next season. Maybe not focus so much on the fact, I could use this in a double, and now I'm going to be using it in 37 when I probably don't really need it. It was more. It would have been better for plotting those weeks out for the stuff. So the original, but
37 or like a free hit in 38 is a fun little bit because you're like, if you're in a mini league and you need to catch up or something, or teams are being switched around because some players have got nothing to play for or whatever, you can get some fun bits out of that. But 37 should be a good free hit week as well, I think.
I'm looking forward to it.
I don't think that's the worst, Benno, because it is changing. Like none of us are as bullish about Brighton players as we were.
True.
2 weeks ago, they looked like if they get hammered in their 2 games in this game week, you'll be on a free hit going, well, I don't need those guys. You know what I mean? Or I can go somewhere else. There'll be injuries. Like at this stage, the fatigue the players are under is phenomenal. Like, and this look at March. Like they clearly left March out in the last game because he was tired. But then they were so far, they were like 4 down. The ref, I say the manager said, I have to take 3 or 4 off here now just to make a point, and threw March in, and bang goes the hamstring. So like there will be injuries. I still don't think you don't understate the edge you might get from a free hit still. Like someone like a Salah could drop, or someone highly owned, and people will be making -4s and -8s to make it up, and you won't have to do that. So it's I don't think it's that bad.
On the March point, if I was a Brighton fan, I'd be so annoyed they brought they brought March on. You 4-0 down. What's the point? Just bring Martin O'Fire's kid on, or one of the others, like one of the South American lads you've got, and just bring them on instead. Like you can make the same point without bringing a guy on who's not in his moment or whatever the phrasing was. And you look at that Brighton bit now, and you think, well, they've just shipped 5 goals to an Everton team that I don't think have got a striker. And they've got 4 games within a fortnight, and the 4th one of those is Man City. You're like, that could be a bit rough.
And one of them
just like the 2 this week are horrible. Arsenal and Newcastle away are the 2nd and 3rd hardest games of the season, apart from City away. You know, so like it's a horrible few games they have. Like, so we all have Brighton and we're keeping them because we're stuck with them. You're not going to sell it here. Is that a double?
Yeah.
You're looking at it with different eyes, Benno. Like, and
even
that might be
the
where your edge is, you know.
Benefit. That's the
Even the
benefit
other
for
bit,
me
like-
in that. If I can free hit in 37, which I'm going to be doing. The dream of doing 38, I'm with you, Chris, but I think I will use it 37 because what it allows me to do is exactly that: is to go against the curve this week and be like, because I think most FPL podcasts are going to be giving you the advice, like the advice we gave before, which was, well, if you're worried about Marsh, McAllister's right there. You're going to be able to afford him. He's on pens. It's an easy swap because Brighton have got 4 games. Despite maybe, the lack of quality of those 4 games, for me, it's a different question because I only have to think about the 2 games in front of us, and it's Arsenal away and Newcastle away. So I've got the room to go a bit there. Again, I'm chasing the 30 points I lost in 32. So if I make another 30 back, I'm just back where I started. But I'd like to get back where I started.
I think one of the ones, Benno, one of the ones this week as well, people will be thinking is the Newcastle double. I mean, I'm sticking Pope in net for Ederson because he's got the double. It looks a much easier double than what the Brighton one there. You can easily put, well, everyone's got like Trippier, but people will be putting Isak in instead of Watkins because Watkins hasn't done anything for at least 3 weeks now. That's going to be a very popular option. Definitely.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the Brighton fixtures as well. Even that 4th game, that Southampton game. I mean, Southampton are going down, but that's going to be a South Coast derby. Southampton know it's the last time they get to play Brighton for a while. Like that team's got to be up for it to know that anything that the fans have still got relying in that Saints team, they've got to show it against Brighton. So none of those games will be easy.
No, that's it. It's still 4 games, isn't it? So like there are going to be.
That's it. Like minimum, it should be 8 points. So like over that 4 games.
We're the only podcast out there, Chris, who's going to be telling people, those Brighton players, because everyone else is
just avoiding.
Get McAllister, you idiots, is basically what everyone's saying, isn't it? Or look at a couple of other Jamesy's favourites. They got Ferguson up front could be a punt. There's options there, isn't there? Maybe that might be a route to go, just to be. I'll be different, but I'll be safe.
Well, I've got. We'll get to it in a minute, but I do have I'm going a different option than getting another midfielder in, I think.
Oh, okay. Who else stands out to you from Brighton, Jamesy? Like if you weren't going straight to McAllister, or let's say you have McAllister already, because there's a lot of people in that position too. Who stands out? I know Ferguson's someone you're a fan of, but there's options there.
Yeah, I probably would avoid the defense now. I think that shipping 5 goals to Everton is a bit scary. I kind of think, obviously if you have a Stupinan, stick with the Stupinan. I wouldn't go after the goalkeeper at this point. As I said with the draft, I was stung by him on a -1 the last day. It's difficult because there's lots of cheap options, but like, you could look at the guy in CISO who is playing, getting reasonable minutes.
Buonanotte, weren't it, as well?
Yeah,
for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Of those 4 games, how many will Enciso start? You know what I mean? Because there's Danny Welbeck as well. Ferguson is back now.
Bundav as well.
So like you could see Enciso, Welbeck, and then Ferguson maybe starting 2 each of those 4 games. So like it's and you'll get sub minutes from them and that kind of thing. So it's very hard. Like the one who's a little bit interesting is that guy Buonanotte, because I couldn't pick him out. If he walked past me now, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't recognize him. But he plays March's position, and if March is gone, I can't off the top of my head think of anyone else who'd play on the right for Brighton. So maybe him.
I think they could have a shuffle round because and Cisco's the one I'm thinking of going for. Because he plays the forward slot, so I can move down from Solanke to him
and
to free up money for midfield. So he won't get punished for defensive points. He does play more of a midfield role, and he does when he plays. He starts and he plays about 60 minutes, and then he comes off for Bonetto or Afire or whoever else is on the bench to play. Undav or they move Pascal Gross forward or that sort of thing. So. He's the one I'm lumping behind, and that frees up a slot for me to get a Newcastle midfielder in,
right?
Which I think is a way to go. So you can get and Cisco obviously won't get any negatives again if they lose ship a lot of goals. And I think you get a more solid midfielder with the better games for game week 36 by getting a Newcastle midfielder in, whether it's Joe Linton or Bruno Guimaraes or whomever. But, yeah, I mean, the difficulty is now Brighton trying to pick who's going to replace him in what position, because they do seem to like moving the players around into different roles that you don't really expect. Pascal Gross is playing right back at the minute, but it's freed him up and he's suddenly become a much more attacking option now that he's playing even further back down the field as opposed to playing in the six or in the pivot, whichever way you want to think of it. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But
what's your thoughts on Newcastle and Chris? Like anyone you like? You kind of you've named a couple of names there, but yeah.
So if Sean Longstaff plays, Joe Linton's a better attacking option. If he doesn't play, because he is yellow flagged at the minute, I don't think Joe Linton will have to slip back into a different role, and he isn't as attacking presence. So maybe like a Willock or a Murphy or Saint Maximum is on his way back. It becomes a bit trickier, but if Longstaff plays, I'm going to get Joe Linton. That's kind of my thought on it. Or Bruno Guimaraes is probably an easier option without having to worry. If you're not able to check on Newcastle team news before the team's announced, probably Bruno Guimaraes is.
That's what I'm hoping for. Team news, because while I feel not confident going against Brighton for 36 only, bearing in mind I've got the free hit, going against Newcastle is another matter, because I have looked at it and gone, oh, I could get Jesus, but it's like, why would I not get Wilson or Isaac if I know who's starting?
Yeah.
Plus as well, that's the dinner time kickoff on Saturday, so you're
not really going to
get that team news about quarter to 11, won't you? The mad rush.
And on a free hit, are you thinking free hit 37, Benno, was it, or 36?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've stopped gearing my transfer towards 37 and just thought I'll use it then. And like you said, who are the form players at that point? I'll have more info on City. Maybe some of the single game week players people are ignoring might come off for me. So yeah, that's the plan.
I like if I did have a midfield slot and I was thinking of buying a Newcastle player, I would probably this week go Willock. I watched the Arsenal match. Yeah, I watched the Arsenal match the last week, and he was in the box an awful lot. Like him and Joe Linton they almost switch with each other, and when one sits and one goes forward, and I just think he gets it. I remember there was a run he had, was it last season or the season before, when he was on loan at Newcastle, and he got a run there of 3 or 4 games in a row where he was scoring like once and twice in every match and that kind of thing. He does have goals in him. He's a good, decent finisher. I think he's cheap. I think he's maybe 4.8 or something like that. So that's the other thing. Really if you need money, like you would make money on selling March for him, and that's more money you can put towards someone else as well. Like so, and we're close enough to the end of the season now that you can. Our benches are so loaded that you can buy him and play him in this double, and you can probably happily sit him on your bench then for the rest of the games. And all our benches are so strong that weakening your bench a little bit is no harm at the moment.
Yeah. That's the thing. Everyone's going to have benching headaches this week, Chris.
Oh, massive.
Yeah, that's it. I'm looking at mine and I'm kind of like, should I play Luke Shaw over Dan Burn? Or, I mean, it's not like, the double game week or over a single game week and that sort of thing. I was also just going to say, how mad is it that we've all just fallen off Almiron? Because he was like the must-buy guy after the World Cup, wasn't it? And he's still in that team. He's just not, in that same sort of role now. And, at the time we were saying he's vastly overperforming his XG. Like he's taking shots from miles out and he's banging them in. And now he's gone back to, the opposite. So he's leveling out sort of thing to that sort of point. But he seems to have really, with Isaac becoming more of the dominant figure at Newcastle's attacking line, whether he's playing as the single striker or playing on the wing, setting up Wilson when Wilson comes on, it seems like it's adversely affected Almiron's offensive production, sort of thing. So, but and on the thing, if anyone is thinking between Isaac and Wilson, I lean towards Isaac. I don't know about everybody else.
I think FPL Andy said that as well. He's going more Isaac over Wilson.
It must be so don't listen to that then. So that must be wrong.
I don't know on it really because I was so set. Like anecdotally, if you were asking me who's done better the last while, I'd say Isaac. But that's not really the case.
No.
I was like looking at them. Like
Wilson does, yeah. I think
so
Wilson does better off lower minutes, doesn't he? I think.
Well, that's it. So Isaac, you go back what? So from 30, 35, 2, 7, 1. There's a 13 in game week 32, and then it's 2, 5, 6. And yeah, so there's 1 week where he goes off, and then a couple of middling weeks and a couple of okay weeks. And then when you actually look at Wilson, again, it's the minutes thing. You're absolutely right, Chris.
Yeah.
It's not much in it really because it's a 12 and a 13 in game weeks 33 and 34 when he played 86 and 45 minutes. 5, 1, 4, and then 13 and 29. I mean, for someone in my situation, if I know Wilson's playing, I'm going to go for him because
you would.
Based on those numbers, more explosive, isn't it? There's the chance that he's going to.
I mean, there's nothing against. There's nothing against having both of them if you can. Like when you're on a free hit, like if there's the option to have them both, I don't think that's a bad thing, particularly against the Leicester team that's going to be. It feels like that Leicester team's done anyway. But that's that's next week's problem, I suppose. But like Wilson gets a lot done in very few minutes. Which is perfect for Newcastle because you can't play Wilson a lot because if you play him too much, he'll get injured. But in that short spell that he can play, like in basketball, it's like your sixth man off the bench sort of thing. Or like your old Ollie Solskjaer or that sort of thing where it's just like, give me a good hungry. 20 minutes. Yeah, he wants to score. He's a proper predator.
He wants his place. He wants his place back. So he's coming off the bench, and maybe the rest of the team, and he comes off maybe when they're 2 or 3-0 up, and the other team's a bit demoralised, and he comes on full of beans, saying, "I need to show the manager what I can do here."
Yeah.
So he's mad for goals. You know what I mean? So
he's rapid as well. That's the
and he's a better finisher than Isaac. I would still lean Isaac over him. Because I do value minutes, and I think by the law of probability, if you have a guy who plays 260s against a guy who plays 230s, like Wilson can't keep coming on as a sub and getting those numbers either. I just think a guy who starts is a more reliable option and that kind of thing. But it's a bit of a toss up, and I actually think the people who get green arrows and the people who get red arrows this week are the people who make the right choice between those two, to be honest with you. I think teams are so similar and everything's so condensed at the moment. It's going to come down to a simple choice then which of those guys you want to pick, really,
Definitely. That's it. So we don't know, basically, is the answer, isn't it?
I don't think it's two really good options, so there's no bad answer. Either way, you can justify picking the guy you pick. So it's like, fair enough.
I would say if you're defending your position, you take Isaac. If you're trying to catch up to somebody, you take Wilson because he's got the higher upside. Yeah. So I think you've got more chance of Wilson scoring 2 than you have of Isaac scoring 2. I think that's that's the way you look at it.
I'm willing to sacrifice everything, Chris, for the Workman League at this point. I'll come bottom of every league. I don't care. I'll take minus figures. I just need to find out if Stu from work is bringing in Wilson or Isaac. I don't know. I'm going to find that out, but I'm going to go the opposite if I can. So I'm going to hope I get to the way. But yeah, that's it. But yeah, your eyes have got to be there. Like I say, I feel a little bit like I could maybe not go Brighton, but I think I have to go Newcastle. But you brought it up, Jamesy. Like, it begs the question of captaincy. So once you've made that call, once you've gone Wilson, you've gone Isaac, do you captain them over Haaland at Everton? I mean, again, I'm the Evertonian here. Got me mug here. Not exactly a season ticket carrying all one anymore, but I am kind of like. I've just realised we've got 2 Jameses. The other one's not actually there. Hi, Jamesy. You were there. Talking to your twin.
My internet's acting the maggot tonight.
I thought we were getting another Matty running or something.
I was just saying, James. He's
fake Undertaker.
It's the UK Undertaker. Oh no, I won't say that to you. But yeah.
Hey, no.
You did beat it. I won't bring up any BWE jokes. So I'm saying, like, as you brought up a couple of times in the run up to this, once you've made that call, Isaac or Wilson, the question is then, do you captain them over Haaland? And like I was just saying, not exactly a season ticket old Evertonian anymore, but based on that result last week, I think we're going to try and keep it tight at home. Yeah. City have got other things on the mind. I don't necessarily think Haaland gets dropped, but I don't know, something about the way, him not taking that penalty, Pep being annoyed at him, I don't know, just something feels like it might be a week to go against for someone in my position. But I don't know, is there a question there? Haaland captain versus one of the doublers?
It's one of the, it's been a bit boring, the captaincy, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, because it's been Haaland had a double, Haaland had Leeds. You're like, stick with Haaland, no problem. It's a genuine question this week, I think. You know what I mean? And so like you look at the doublers, I don't fancy any of the Brighton lads as a captain. Difficult fixtures coming off a bad result. The points of Mitoma's points have dried up in the last 5 weeks. I don't trust the Stupinian defensively. Maybe McAllister on penalties, but I wouldn't go there. So I think it's Haaland versus your Newcastle striker. Trippier.
Trippier's been one of the like up in the list of people like captaining.
But this isn't 2 months ago, or this isn't 6 months ago when Trippier was 9 points every week. If this was the first 15 weeks of the season, I'd be all over Trippier this week.
He's been 2s and 3s, hasn't he, last few weeks?
Completely dried up. No attacking returns. So it's whoever your Newcastle striker is versus Haaland, and I'm not set on it yet. I have put it on Isak because I always tend to go towards the doubler, but I don't know because I also think, going back to effective ownership and that kind of thing, it's going to be like a lot of people will back the doubler. So like if you did go Haaland this week, it's probably the lowest effective ownership that you're going to get probably for the rest of the season. You would make gains if he did go off. If he had one of his days where he scores twice or 3 times, it would actually be, and like that has happened to all of us loads of times this season, and you make no gains on it because literally every single other player in the league you're in has Haaland as captain. So it's great that you have loads of points, but also they're crap points that mean nothing because everybody has them.
Yeah.
This week, there will be a significant number of people who go for the doublers. So like if Haaland goes off, it could be a rise in rank. So I don't know. It's a hard one. But as you said, they're in the middle. They're sandwiched. If they had won 3-0 against Madrid during the week, you'd kind of say, okay, that's finely poised. That's 1-1. That was a really hard game. Like I heard a quote from Jack Grealish. He said the first time in years that he's had cramp after the game. He took nobody off. They all played 90+ minutes. They ran their legs off in that game. They were really they do want the European Cup above anything else. So there is the worry at the back of your head that he might get rotated. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to have a good think about it tomorrow.
Particularly when Alvarez has been such a good option in reserve. It's the same with Gabriel Jesus. When he's gone to Arsenal, everyone's like, "Oh, this guy's a really good striker." It's like, yeah, that's why he was at Man City. It's just like Alvarez isn't. He's just won. It's just like he probably got the goal of the month last month where he spanked it in. I was just going to say, I'm just on the Fantasy Football Hub website at the moment. Their poll for the Huji captain this week. Isaac is 53.97% leading. Wilson is next. Trippier is after that, equal with Haaland, and then Salah and Mitoma. So
what percentage is Haaland?
It's 7.53 for Haaland, same as Trippier.
Jesus,
it's probably only off about 400 votes at the minute, it looks like.
But you have to remember that those are the super engaged managers who subscribe to a website. They're the IWC, should we say? The vast majorities of casuals, people will just say they'll see the fixture, they'll see Everton, and they'll just go Haaland.
Just leave it Haaland.
The one thing I would say is that if there's a team that's set up to defend against Haaland, ready to take the physical battle against him, it's a Sean Dyche team that's got Connor Cody and James Tarkowski and all those sort of guys in the back of it. They'll be up for a bit of a physicality, and I think Haaland kind of thrives off that, but also it feels like you might be able to dampen him or kind of like lead him away from things a bit more, like Rudiger and Alaba, is it, at Real Madrid? They did a similar sort of tactic where they just kind of not bullied him, but you kind of let him know you're there and he's like in a battle sort of thing. Yeah, that's it. And I think Everton are in that sort of bit where you could, be able to do that. So it might be more that they take Haaland out of the picture and then De Bruyne spanks it in from 25 yards out or something like that, as opposed to Haaland getting the one over on the defense like he does in a lot of places.
I just have it at the back of my head though that, do you know the way when Haaland he blanks a couple of times? He blanked against Leeds last week. He blanked midweek.
Yeah.
People start. What he usually goes nuts then the next time. You know what I mean? It's like it goes from that to how dare you doubt me? He missed really easy chances against Leeds. He could bang in 4. He could.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So
he does one of those weird things where he jumps. Yeah, he jumps 15 foot in the air and does an overhead volley or something stupid that nobody else can do.
What a weird situation. Haaland is a differential. Like it's just odd, isn't it?
I mean, my captaincy's on him
tempts
in a minute.
me. That's what tempts me is that like you can have him as a different. Like who would have thought that? Against a team that's in the bottom 5. A team that's fighting relegation, who they have shipped some serious defeats. Like if they did get an early goal, could be one of those days. It's a very tough one, and I think captaincy will be massive this week as well.
If I found out he wasn't starting, James, would you judge me for selling him? Get him back in 37 on the free hit.
Who'd you sell him for though? Get the 2
It mean I could
Newcastle guys?
afford. It just mean I could afford Isaac and Wilson, or like say Jesus and Isaac or something like that.
If you knew he wasn't starting, because you're free hitting 37 anyway. So that's another week where you're not going without. And then
probably I want him back for Brentford away though, won't I? Last day of the season.
Like you could justify it more than most because you have the free hit.
Possibility.
Last game of the season as well. He's only got to score 15 to beat Dixie Dean's record or something. So I won't put it against him.
Actually, Benno, they might have won the league by then. So it's
true.
Quite possible he wouldn't play anyway because they've the cup final the following week and then the European Cup final the following week again. So
all right. Well, I've swung from captaining Haaland for a differential to selling Haaland as a differential. I might just tell you that this has been a shit season and I'm scrambling in trying to do whatever I can do.
I'm just considering all options, Benno. That's all it is.
Oh, love it. But yeah, when people mention that Dixie Dean record, by the way, like even as an Evertonian, it's like, come on. It was lads who they might as well be jumpers for goalposts. It's not the
flags before the game.
I love that. Yeah, I just like it's similar in cricket where they'll be like, oh, there are all these records. It's like, yeah, because he was playing a guy that probably had leprosy or like rickets or Dixie Dean's records like just after the lads came back from the Second World War. No wonder he was beating them all. It's like fucking hell. What's going on?
Did have a cut off. It's the same with Wembley, isn't it? With AEW, it's like we're comparing it to these records from like 1910 in Australia. 180,000 people were in some stadium. Fuck off!
Oh, everyone went to see Jim Londos wrestling Greece. Come on! It's like in baseball when they're like, "Oh, we've got all these records before black people played." It's like, what the fuck you want to? It's just like,
they don't count.
Yeah, just ridiculous. It's just like records should just be. I mean, I don't like that Premier League history is the only history, but at the same time, like maybe go from like 1970 or something.
It's more comparable in it at the very least.
Exactly.
100%. and it we're missing from the fixtures. Then, like I say, I do. We talked about it earlier. I really like Arsenal. Brighton at home on Brighton's current form. Not Forest away. Wolves at home. Like a lot. Again, that's another differential people aren't going towards because people are going to be selling their Arsenal players, as we've talked about the pain, Andy, of getting of Odegaard out. I think he's got like 47 points or something like that. 3 weeks I've not had him. It'd kill me. I'd never kept him though. If I could have kept one Arsenal player, it'd have been Martinelli, it'd be Saka. There's no reality where he would have stayed in my team, so I can't be mad about it.
I think Martinelli was the first to go out of my team. I kept Odegaard for weeks. And I think because he had like a run of like 2 points, as I took him out, and that's how he's turned up now, hasn't he? Saka's gone off, but I've done a wild one this week. I've done that bloody Mad Wooker from Chelsea, the midfielder. Okay. He's looked very good last few weeks. I've seen him on telly, probably one of the only ones for Chelsea. I don't know if I think he's got 1 goal in the last 4 games, but it's an option. It's an option.
Yeah, not bad. Any other teams stand out to you two lads? Any other talking points there as far as
I
what people
think
got left?
if you were looking for a differential, but like a really reliable differential, Spurs fixtures aren't bad. Villa away, Brentford at home, Leeds away. Leeds could be gone by then. Could have nothing to play for in that game, you know. Like the Brentford game might be his last ever home game for Spurs. He's going to want to put on a show for that. We talked about how reliable he is, and like he's down to 20% ownership now. So he's got 3 games there. He'll get at least 3 goals in that time. You know what I mean? And he's low owned, you know. So like he's hard to get to with the money. But if you have Salah and you wanted to get off Salah now that his doubles are gone, you go back there. Like as I said, you're still picking a reliable asset, but it's a differential.
Salah's got some good fixtures there, though, hasn't he?
I was going to say those
Saints.
Yeah. Last 3 for Liverpool are very good, and I don't mind that last 3 for West Ham. Yeah. But the issue obviously is they're still in the Europa Conference League,
and they're safe.
I think they're safe. So, but I mean, Brentford are on the bench, Leeds on the beach even. Leeds are in the battle, and Leicester are probably gone. So, you know, somebody like a Ben Rama or that sort of thing could be a good differential, but. How much they're swapping the team around at the moment because they're playing the team from Belgium, aren't they?
They won tonight.
Was it that one? They won that already, yeah.
Against Alkmaar. Yeah.
Alkmaar, that was the one, yeah. So they keep on marching on. So and there's a couple of good teams that you can look at fixture wise, but Arsenal probably be the one where you're thinking they're going to play the big names and they've got to be up for it because they've got to hope that City slip up at some point in that run, even though it doesn't look likely. But
I was going to say, I mean, you know, just that big tone on the phone there. He's not very happy with the dynamite rating from last night, but tells me Mitch is back in it this week. You know, could be an option.
Mitchell's back.
Mitchell's back. He's like Mitchell and Miro both came back the same night.
That's it. Mitrovic's ownership's got to be really low as well.
Oh yeah, no one. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be ghost ship teams, isn't it, and nothing else. No one's transferring Mitrovic in for the last 3, but you know, 10 points a week.
Next 2 are lovely: Southampton and Crystal Palace.
Yeah,
it's just I wish he'd came back last week because then you'd be like, okay, he's gone straight into the 11. It's a gamble having not seen any pitch time for Lord knows how long's it been, like 10 weeks or something like that.
It's probably been good for him though because he was carrying a foot injury for all the way through the season, and then he's been suspended. So he's basically taken an injury break through a suspension. So he should be really realistically be coming back as good as he's been all year. So yeah, you'd expect him to probably pop up with a goal or 2 over those the last 3 weeks. Yeah. Although Andreas isn't there to feed him, so it'd probably be.
Yeah, he's out
Will-I-Am or that sort of thing, isn't it? So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I mean, we'll look at our individual teams in a second. We've talked through most of the options. Maybe back for another show before 38, but you know, we'll see. Just as an early thought, in case we're not game week 37. Any thoughts on that? As far as like you guys are going to be in more of the situation than most other people are. I'm just going to be, you know, going wild on me free hit, moving towards anybody. You moving towards Chelsea, City, United, or is it just a case of I've got them already? I'm gonna go with what I've got. Any early thoughts on 37?
I tried that FPL team planner earlier today. I don't think I'm doing any transfers for 37. I'll just leave it. You know, leave feet for 2 for 38. No real much. Not much changing around I can do for my team. I've got most of the doubles like your Brighton, I've got Chelsea, I've got your City and United, so I'm covered.
I have 9 double game week players for 37 looking at the moment, and the only 2 that aren't are Trippier and Kane, so I probably wouldn't move either of them out.
No.
But yeah, I might go into game week 38 with two transfers just to mix it up a bit, or maybe I wouldn't really get rid of Trippier. Kane, that's fine. So yeah, I'm probably no transfer.
If this week's bad for bench and headaches, 37 is going to be bad, isn't it? A lot of people have Liverpool players too, based on the last double. Yeah. How'd you get rid of them at Villa at home? You know.
Well, yeah, that's it. But Villa have kind of gone off the boil a little. I mean, they're still solid enough, but they're not. You know, Watkins isn't returning as often as he was now. Defense looks their defense next season, I think, will be a lot of fun if they keep it as it is. Like Marino, Mings. I think the only one's probably the Ashley Young. You probably try and get a replacement in for him, but the rest of that team's fairly solid. Cons has been really good this year. Have they still got Matty Cash? Is he
Matty
there?
Cash, yeah, he's still there.
Probably you probably bring Matty Cash in for Ashley Young, and that's a very, very solid and very attacking defense with like Mings playing a centre defense but still providing attacking options. But that's next year's issue. But yeah, for me, yeah, I'm no transfers around next week. I don't think.
Oh, are you, Jamesy? Any early thoughts on 37?
I think I have 9 doublers already, but I'm a little light on Man City. I have 3 United, I have 3 Brighton, so I'll obviously keep those. We'll talk about what transfers I'm doing. I'll go into that game week with only Haaland from Man City, so I probably have to do something about that. Now I'll only have 1 transfer, so I'll either have to. I have my long-term plan all along had been to go Salah to Kevin De Bruyne because it's a nice, easy, affordable transfer. I don't need to gain money to get to do that. As long as they're going for the title, I would expect Kevin De Bruyne to be in the team. Big game player we saw the other night. I just think he always comes good. This in clutch matches, in clutch matches when they really need him, he's the man that steps up. So I think that would be the sensible signing.
Makes sense.
But I could look at Salah's fixture. It is a home game. Salah has scored 9 home games in a row. Liverpool are really good at home. I wouldn't be against keeping Salah. I have Trent. I wouldn't be against keeping him as a single game weeker. I have Isaac, who's got isn't it Leicester they have? Shite defense.
That's right.
I don't mind keeping him and playing him. Trippier. It's an easy game week, really. You know what I mean? It's just that 1 transfer. Do I bother making it, or do I keep 2 for 38? So it's as we said before, the way the fixtures have fallen have made it slightly boring in terms of everyone that doubled in 34 is doubling again now in 37. So we all are loaded up on their players anyway. And the heavily owned single game weekers all have good fixtures. So it's a bit like, nobody's going to do anything outrageous in 37, I think. You know what I mean? There's no need to.
I like the idea of going into 38 with 2 transfers because you could really roll the dice if you want to try and catch up a lot of ground or whatever. And I think that's a decent idea.
Leaks. There will be leaks because everybody kicks off at the same time. So if somebody you have has dropped, you'll know about it more or less. If you own Haaland and he's dropped, you could suddenly move him out and get someone. So it's good to have 2.
That's it. If we're doing, we'll do the live show on the Sunday. Like I think it's 4:30 kickoffs on Sunday, so it'd be what a 2:30 sort of deadline sort of thing.
3 o'clock deadline, I think.
3 o'clock deadline.
It's an hour and a half.
So we'll get some information out. We can make a couple of fun transfers. You can have a bit of side bets on there and that sort of thing.
There you go. Well, maybe I should hold me free hit for that just because it'll be a laugh. I'll bring it. That's when Mitro comes in.
We'll all pick a player each.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll literally go 11 differentials that no one else has got and just see what the fuck happens.
Everybody under 10% ownership now, just for the crack.
There you go. Yeah. Cool there. Well, there you go. There's some early plans, but before we have a look at the leagues and have a quick look at the draft as well. Kind of talked through it already, but just to do it in full, our team lineups for this week. So that's how you're lining up at the minute, James. Like you say, a couple of transfer plans in mind, but looking pretty strong.
Yeah, I went early. Somebody was saying in the chat about price changes. I noticed a couple of days ago that March was dropping and McAllister was going up, and I didn't want to get caught again by prices. I was pretty sure I wanted to get McAllister for March. Again, I'm playing defensively. McAllister's ownership is going to skyrocket, so I can't really be without a double game weeker at the moment at the rank I am, who's going to have such high ownership just in case he goes off. You know what I mean? So went for him. And then my second transfer is a bit more interesting. I had planned all along to get, my long-term plan was get a second Newcastle defender this week. I was going to probably sell Mings and get Botman. But then I looked at my bench and I was like, if I do have Botman, that means I have to play Trippier. He's doubling. I have to play Stupinan. I have to play Botman. I have to play the 2 Brighton lads. I really want to play Rashford and Fernandes at home to Wolves. I want to play Salah against Leicester. So like it was like I'm benching Trent and Luke Shaw. Like it's already breaking my heart to bench Luke Shaw because I think United have a good chance of a clean sheet against Wolves. I was like, I really don't want to leave Trent Alexander-Arnold out, and I'm also fed up of Ederson. I'm like sick of the sight of him at this stage. So what I did was I sold Ederson and brought in Pope, so he can be my second Newcastle defender. But it then allows me to play Trent as well. So it's kind of, and I think Trent might be a little bit of a differential this week because I think a lot of people who have roughly the same template as me will end up having to bench him, because a lot of people had Botman from their free hits. So like I kind of have an advantage on them as I was only now making my Newcastle transfer. So I can play Trent. He might be slightly lower owned than he has been. So it makes sense to me. You know, like it does mean I'm down a Man City player for next week, but like it's Ederson. You know what I mean? He has left me down. Now you know what will happen this week. He'll keep a clean sheet and it'll be a 6-point. And Pope will get 2 1s or something. But
that's it. Edison's going to say Ederson will save a penalty this week.
I'll score a goal or something, or get an assist. You know, he's always passing it out. He'll set someone up. But the big benefit is I get Trent on the pitch, and I think it would have really broken my heart to have to leave him on the bench. So I'm happy with that. You know, and I'll worry about City next week. I'll bring in 1 City player next week, and I'll just go with it. It'll be grand.
You, Chris, we got your transfer plans set up. So that's is that McAllister?
I did send you a newer one, which
did you? I'll find it.
Which has a different route that I've decided I'm going to take. But yeah, I was initially thinking getting rid of Pinnock for Bueno just to get the cash, but I've decided that Solanke is going to be the cut man to bring in and Cisco. Who I think will get some game time with March being out. And then in midfield, it means I can bring in a Newcastle midfielder, which at the minute is Joe Linton. So I would be looking at having Grealish on the bench this week because we kind of touched on it earlier. I'm not entirely sure on his minutes this week. And while I do prefer him over Mahrez, they are basically identical when you look at their numbers for the year and this, that, the other. So I'd rather go with somebody that is going to play in 2 games in Joe Linton than Grealish. Will probably get 45 minutes at most. You'd have thought. So probably end up looking at Joe Linton playing and Cisco playing. The only thing would be Burn or Shaw. Shaw playing centre defence. I don't know. I'd probably take Burn playing 2 games. Probably a clean sheet in one of them against Leeds, and then whatever happens against Brighton. So you're probably looking at an 8-pointer against a 6-pointer, hopefully from Burn, and that'd be it. And Cisco is the wild card sort of thing in there. And that'd be about it really. I think probably
could be Ferguson, Welbeck in that spot maybe instead of Cisco.
I could do Ferguson. I don't think I would do Welbeck at the price.
Right.
I've only got 0.2 in the bank from where I am there, so I could do
it's either Cisco. 5 points summit. So
it's either in Cisco or it's Ferguson, and I think going off recent team selection from Brighton, and Cisco's getting more minutes than Ferguson, but I mean obviously Ferguson's coming back from an injury, so they might split it 90-90 or something, whichever way. But
could you do
one of those two?
Could you do Willock, Welbeck? Would their combined price be the same as Joe Linton and Ciso, I wonder?
I think I probably could do. But I don't know if I can trust Danny Welbeck. I know he's had a couple of goals recently. But come on.
It is Danny Welbeck.
I'd rather take the bit of interest in having Cisco, I think.
And then Andy's playing the draft,
He's my boy.
Well, that's true. The thing is, on the Newcastle defenders, like Joe Linton's probably the most expensive one I can afford, and then the rest, you still got like Bruno Guimaraes and a lot of the other guys that were Willock and Murphy and those guys. So it can be any of those Newcastle midfielders. Joe Linton, as I was saying earlier, it kind of depends on if Sean Longstaff plays, but we'll see which way it goes. It's going to be a Newcastle defender in that position. So
makes sense. Well, here's your boys, Andy. That's as described. You have yet again invented the Chelsea midfielder, so congrats on that. Sensible soccer is in action. Football Manager regen looking good. whoever
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I've just up Popin for Edison. I think that's the easy move for the double. Maduka, as I mentioned. Yeah, it's just taking a punt similar to Chris with Joel Linton. Who would ever thought we'd be saying, we'll stick Joel Linton in our team? But, you know, he's had a great season, hasn't he, the donkey? The only...
Debating him or Danny Welbeck, what have we become?
Exactly, yeah, that's it.
I'll always say Joel Linton's one of the worst centre forwards I've seen live play at Scotland, and bloody hell, I've seen Rochdale play for bloody 30 odd years.
Shockingly, though, a really good defensive midfielder.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. The only change I was maybe looking at, or just thinking I was putting Watkins in instead of Saka, but it's just really either or. I'm just stick with Saka myself. I'm just hoping he does get like the 1 or 2 goals, what we were mentioning earlier on. But yeah, no, I'm very happy with that team. I think on the expected points, it's around about 85, 90 points on the team planner. So yeah,
take that.
Wait and see. A 40-point week. Here we come.
Well, speaking of waiting and see, this is my current lineup, but it could be anything by the deadline. So who knows? Chris has just maybe consider, could get a Cisco and an Arsenal mid for March and Martial. Could be a way I go. Again,
I think Odegaard's a great choice. Yeah. I mean, I've had him in my draft team all year. He's been consistent. I think it's and that goal that he scored again at the last week, great from outside the box.
Double figures, like three games in a row, isn't it? Like, yeah, I am tempted. Him or Martinelli, who I could afford if I went that route. I could get Isaac and maybe downgrade a Rashford or a Mahrez, but I think Mahrez is going to be differential himself this week, so don't think I'm going to do that. And I could just go completely crazy and transfer out Haaland, and I can do whatever the fuck I want. Kane could come in. Who knows? I'm at that point of the season where I'm not gonna finish anywhere near the top 100,000. So why not just throw it at the wall and try and win a couple of mini leagues I'm still in. So yeah, that's where I'm going at the minute. It could go really in any direction, but I don't think I'm going to go down the beaten path. Don't think I'm going to be looking at McAllister, but like I say, could be tempted by a Newcastle striker or two.
It's the end of the season. You might as well have a bit of fun with it.
That's it. Yeah, that's the point of the season that I'm in. So gonna have a laugh. And like you said, Chris, sign players I like. Maybe people I want to watch. I think that.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's a detriment where I'm just kind of like, I just like this guy, so I hope he does well and put him in the team. I'm just like, probably should have put Sam Johnston in goal.
Well, yeah, as Chris rightly says, we have got the GRAPPL FPL Cup going on at the minute as well. Our little mini league, and the main thing has gone to the cup rounds. I had a buy. Don't know if I mentioned that at any point, lads. But, did have that going.
I can't believe you fixed your own cup, so you got a buy in the first round. Shocking!
A fantastic game week 34, mate. That's what I mean. The only good game week I've had all season. Give me that. But yeah, that's going on. I don't think we're not having any money on that one, are we? But it's going to be
well, I mean, I'm not in it now, so I'm perfectly fine with that. I thought you'd all agree to a five.
No.
A fiver in.
The room. When Andy gave me a thumbs down, Andy didn't want to gamble. I was like, you know what?
No.
Okay. Maybe it can just be,
I've got my eyes set on one league with money on. I don't need two.
You can't even get Matty to pay for one. Never mind two.
That's true too. Yeah, that wasn't fun anytime doing. Yeah, I got it.
Take it out of his wages, Benno.
Well, he might pay now that he's through because it's next round. Me and you, Jamesy, one on one.
Yes, I owe you one from last week in the draft.
We're getting into that. Martin, Eddie, and Andy, you still in it? Could have got that money, mate. $5 each.
No, I think with that cup, you just don't want to draw. Well, sadly, you've got Jamesy this week. James is the one. It's like playing Man City in the FA Cup. It's like, oh god.
Though I only snuck past Carl because of a -4. We were all really confused, and then we realised Carl had taken a -4, and it got me through on a technicality. Yeah,
there it is. Yeah,
we're all pretty close there, weren't they, last week? Because they were all bad scores.
It was that week where there was,
one of them, unless you got to buy, but that was just me. Anyway, draft. Speaking of stuff that's for money and the stuff that matters, lads, it is getting close.
Great league, lads.
It is. I'll let you take it away, James.
To be fair.
Oh, you were talking it up, weren't you, at the weekend? Like, there's so many possibilities here. Like, Connor's probably relegated. I think he is.
I think he's down now, Connor, isn't it? Yeah.
Will could get out of the mire, but it's not looking particularly likely. You'd have to catch Matty. So after all Matty's talk, I think he's going to survive. And then there's a glut in the mid-table up until really, like, there's still, me and you, James, are quite close there. Me, Gareth, Chris could all get into the playing places.
There's a great chance that I can either win it or I can finish 7th, depending how the next games go. It's just like utterly like. If everyone above me loses, so if Eddie so Eddie's been on quite the slide recently, so him losing the next 3 isn't beyond the realms of possibility.
Yeah,
and Andy and Chris have fairly difficult games.
I play Benno, Gareth, and Eddie, so I have to do it the hard way.
Yeah, it's just kind of like if they lose all of their games. And I win all of my games, I could still win, which is bizarre. I think I'd need Eddie and Andy to draw, and then I could end up or something like that. So. Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's going to be the real reason to tune in on the final day of the season.
Yeah,
we need that match to happen at the top.
The last game of the season is Eddie versus Andy and me versus Chris. So
no way.
Yeah,
you need to all get within 3 points of Eddie, basically.
So any combination of us playing each other, if we're all still in the mix, would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
More important than that, I could relegate Will, and I could also relegate Matty. Like,
or take a finger poke at Doom.
Yeah.
Matty will be. I was going to say he's offering money, but Matty's not offering money. It's not
happening. Benno, I was saying to Chris earlier. One of the things is, now Connor's relegated. I've been trying to get some of his players over the last 3 weeks, and he's not for budging.
Connor's upholding the integrity of the league.
Yeah. He's a good lad, Connor. We appreciate that. Don't be giving him your players, Connor. Give them to me.
Make him earn it, Connor. Make him earn it.
That's it. Connor's going to win the championship next year anyway, so it's going to be fine.
We'll figure
we keep him on as commissioner. He's the commissioner of the league for next year.
There you go. That was Carl's unofficial job this year. He didn't do a very good job, but I'm sure
Connor has a spreadsheet. In fairness.
Well, that's it. I thought we were setting up a second division, so
could be a way. Yeah, it's what we've got to figure out how we're going to figure out. Well, maybe we'll sort it out on the final day how we qualify for next year. Because if Connor's out and potentially Matty or Will, we'll have a space for 2 more teams. I'm sure Carl will want back in. Sure, there'll be other patrons and watchers of this who will want in. Whoever finished highest in the main league tends to be how we do it. But we'll see. We'll figure something out. Maybe a forfeit or something. We'll find out a way we can get people to qualify. But it's been a really good league, because even if you look at this last week, me and you, James, he was not just because it's me and you, was the pick of the games. We will be first on match of the day. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because going into the final 2 games of the game week, I had Jamie Vardy, and we were on equal points at that point.
We were 31 each, or maybe there was a point in it, but nothing more than a point in it. Yeah.
And this
fucker I had Brighton's goalkeeper.
Yeah,
that's the incredible bit, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. So you must have been ahead by 1 at that point, Jamesy. Because
I thought I had it in the bag. I was 2 ahead of you. Going into a game where I had 1 more player to play, and I was like, sure, what the worst thing that'll happen is, and it was a goalkeeper. I thought he might get 0. I'll be fine. The fucker goes and he scores an own goal, and he concedes 5. And even at the point where it was 3-0, I was still okay. I was still going to beat you. Yeah. And then the 4th goal cost me. So it was like, And then I was waiting on save points, and he made none. It was like, but it was just, it was
It came down to
everything.
save points, Jamesy. Save points.
Save points. Yeah. But everything that's good about the draft league, I think, when it comes down to save points in a game like that, it's like, why else would I be glued to Everton against Brighton? All my players from the normal team were gone off the pitch, and I was still glued to it. Like, brilliant.
It's one of those mad things that, like, you look at our draft league, and Chris is third, and he has the second lowest amount of points.
Yeah.
And Gareth has the most amount of points, and he's fifth. And you just just like, it literally depends on the week that who you play, because we've all been there where, like, we'll be the highest scoring game, and it'll be like 81 plays 80, and everybody else's games are like 10 versus 9, and he's just like, what's going on? How is this consistently happening?
Brilliant.
It's just been absolutely bizarre this year. It's
look at
points,
like you said,
Connor's 7 points behind Chris, and Connor's on 32 points, and Chris is on 61.
It's double
mad. It's like, how's that happened? It's just bizarre.
He's defying XG, Chris. That's what it is.
That's it. That's
points scored is your XG, and then points won is your actual points. He's massively overperforming the underlying data.
It's like Chris is playing every week for a 1-0 win or something. It's just like,
he's the Arsenal of the 90s, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Got Allardyce in charge. That's what it is. Solid at the back. I like it. But yeah, it is going to make for fun running. Like, and this last week, I say me and James, was a close one. JP trounced Will. Chris, you beat Eddie, so you beat top of the table there.
Did a good one there for me.
Massive impact on it. Andy Ogden, you lost just only slightly.
I was unlucky with that because I was hanging on Brennan Johnson for Forest, and he got 2 assists. I'm like, God, I'm in here. If he gets one more, he's one of those. If he gets one more goal, I've won. And they dragged him off about 75th minute. But yeah, it was exciting. That's the thing. Like Jamesy said, having interest in like Notts Forest, Southampton at 8 o'clock on a Monday. Not a chance. But when points are at stake and money,
different story.
Different story, yeah.
And I'll be collecting that money, by the way, GRAPPL lads. I'm just saying. I
was going to say, I'm fairly certain I still owe you some money.
I'll do it. Oh, and Chris, I haven't checked. You're fine. You got a few weeks, mate. We'll figure it out. The GRAPPL lads, I can take it out of the way, just so it's no worry. You won't be getting the money. Don't worry.
But it is great, the draft, because you kind of like my midfield three's kind of like been Fernandes, Odegaard, and Gundogan, and like there'll be weeks where it hits and weeks where it loses. And I'm like Jesus, like I've kept Jesus. I kept him on the bench throughout his entire injury spell because I was just like, cannot possibly put him back into the mix.
Yeah.
And then you've got to try and figure out the rest of how you build your team. And it's just like, I got Alex Marino like as soon as it looked like he was becoming the starter, or Timo Kehrer at West Ham. He's just kind of like, you kind of got to pay attention to the league, but also in a wider FPL aspect. And it adds a different dimension to the game, and it's a lot of fun. I'd always recommend people if you can get like a 10-12 like team league and in the draft.
Even if being 12 teams, Chris, I think has paid off because I think it's made it. You've got to think a lot more, and you've got to think outside the box. And there are players like you can find them who will make a difference, especially like cheaper defenders, midfielders. There's ways, and there's players who like Grealish was a free agent a few weeks ago, and Ketcher was available.
Bernardo Silva. No one has Bernardo Silva at the moment, which is mad to think about. Like,
Well, I was saying to Andy earlier, I was like, I've got no double game week players next week because I hadn't put the 4-4 in. But previous double game weeks, I'd had like 11, like a full 11 of double game weeks because I've been building it up for all the weeks and like piecemealing this team together that I've double game week players all the way through.
I think we mind this week because it's Newcastle and Brighton. I've got 6 doublers that Thursday night. So if I'm behind by about 5 or 6 points, I've got 12 points there. So
what you need, Andy, this week is for Newcastle to concede in both games because Eddie has triple. What shot Eddie to the top of the league was having triple Newcastle defense through all that period where they were keeping.
I think I've just got all the I've got the attackers, so I've got Murphy, I've got Almiron, I've got
if they
Isak.
concede twice, that's a good. Who's Eddie playing this week, Benno?
He has.
He's playing you, Jamesy, I think.
Yeah.
Is he not?
Yeah.
No, that's week after. Connor
needs to stay strong. Get those transfers in, Connor.
Come on, Connor. Southampton.
Eddie
can do it.
Eddie's got Pope, Botman, and Shaw.
Yeah,
that's where
I mean.
So that was that was a good 18 points for a long time.
Yeah,
and
if they both concede this weekend, Connor's in with a shout.
There you go.
Well, look at that! Look at that! What Eddie had, Dwight McNeil. That's one he picked up last week. 21 points.
What a shout
that is! Still wasn't enough. Still wasn't enough.
But
21 point lead. Wild. Well, there you go. All to play for in the draft this year. But yeah, we'll definitely be doing that again next year. So it's been a lot of fun this year. But we should have a look at the overall leagues. And quickly, I'll throw it up just because it's easier to see our own names. The FPL club unofficial league we've got, where obviously Jamesy's sitting top. Gareth is chasing in second. There's Jordan at third. JP, I'm in fifth. Chris, you're not too far behind me. In sixth.
My goal was to try and catch you, and I don't think it's coming off. But
yeah, my goal was to stay away from you. So yeah, I'm quite happy. You wildcarded that week that I was like adamant about not doing it, so I made you my template. That's the team to not catch
just
you,
copy all his picks now, Benno.
Yeah. There was 1 week where we were within about 20 points of each other, and then you had a monster week, and I was just like, yeah, it's not going to happen. Yeah, top 50 of the full grapple league and top million of the overall league were my end goals. So just outside of those at the minute.
It's a good goal. Well, over in the main grapple league, Mark Bleakley continues to sit at the top and frustrates Jamesy. Have you had a look? Where is he in the world at this point?
I got within 5 points of him in the middle of the game week there at one point. I was like, if I can catch him, I'm going to have a hell of a season, because he was top 100 the whole way. Like he slipped a little bit, I think. He's like 200 or 300 now, I think.
288 now.
But like slipped a bit, like,
I'm sure he's changed his team name as well.
Oh yeah.
So like,
it wasn't that all along. Sure, it wasn't. It was something else.
Yeah, it was something else. Yeah. Oh well,
I think I didn't think you could do that.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, okay.
Change it to "Who are you, Mark Bleakley?"
You need to find him.
Well, that's what I want. Final week of the season, when we're doing the live stream, I want Mark to call in.
Bleakley on, yeah.
And we'd be like, "Who the fuck?"
You're like a celebrity ringing in. Him and Dan Duca. That's who we want.
The Romanian.
What's happened to Dan Duca? I think
he's about 25th. Dan Duca.
Oh dear, Dan.
Did he just play on his chips really early or something? Because he was miles in there for a while.
Yeah, 26.
Green Arrow this week though. But yeah, not looking the strongest. But yeah, he was killing it for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah,
but now he's behind Gareth and JP.
JP's
the killer for me.
Jordan still having monster years, aren't they?
Yeah, in the main league, absolutely. JP's killed me because he's had a new baby and everything, and I was hoping it was going to take his eye off the ball and I'd be able to catch him. You're well behind.
You're not happy for him having a child. You're just like, yes, catch him now in the grapple league.
That's all it's about.
all those late night feeds. That's when he gets up and does his FPL research.
Yeah.
That's like, come on, baby, we can fall asleep to FPL Andy.
The dulcet tones of FPL Andy.
It's not just me that does that, then fair enough. Yeah, more of an FPL Harry guy these days. I like him. He's all right.
A month ago, you said you didn't even know who he was.
He's got a copycat. Did you see that? Did you see that scandal, Benno?
I did see that.
That was brilliant.
Some fella was copying him, but then the guy logged on, and I was like, "Fuck you! These are my picks. I did it myself." And people researched and checked every week, and they were, well, actually, there was 8 or 9 weeks the picks were different, so like he may well have just
also template. It's going to happen, isn't it? The person next to you in the league,
it's totally possible. And also, if you're getting people to watch your feed to take your advice, then don't fucking whinge if they take your advice. Like, there is that.
The thing with FPL Harry, I don't mean it as a negative, is that like, he was a nobody this season at the start of the year. Nobody was watching it. It's the same with FPL Focal last year. Focal was a nobody, and then he was number 1 for like 2 months in a row, and then everybody started watching his stuff because he was number 1 in the world for like fucking ages.
Yeah.
The same
I
with
do-
FPL Harry. Harry's been in the top 500 for the last 3 months. So it's just
And
like,
in
clearly
fairness
people are going
to
to end
him,
up watching his stuff.
His previous ranks have been amazing. He's been
Yeah.
like top 1,000 2 or 3 times in a row. He's genuinely a really good player. Like,
We'll
yeah,
do
it's one of those things. Like, it seems to be a weird difference. Where like some of the bigger names aren't exactly the big like finishers, are they? I mean, FPL Andy is. I mean, obviously he's great at the game, but like his best finishes are still kind of like top 10, 20k. They're not in the 3 digits sort of thing. And those guys, no, absolutely,
James
no
from
James
Planet
either.
James from Planet F. You know FPL Planet James. He I don't think he's ever been near 100,000 even. He's just really good at explaining your options. Like, so being a good content creator isn't necessarily being a good
sort
player.
of like the time's taken up elsewhere, and it's sort of like,
but it's more about explaining to people the different routes you can take and predicting. He's really good at predicting the fixtures. It's not all about actually having a good rank. You could be the most boring fucker in the world and have a great rank, or you could be a really good talker and good at explaining things and have not a great rank. Like, you know,
it's like the chess guy. Is it Magnus Carlsen? Who's like
chess champion,
like really, like world, like grandmaster chess champion sort of thing, but also has finished in the top 2k a few times in FPL or whatever. Ridiculous. Really?
Or was one?
I remember him being like top end.
When it came to the last game of the season, he was 1 and he lost or something like that. He was like really close to winning the whole thing. Yeah.
It's funny because that absolutely that we should do that on the last day. We'll do like content creator awards or something like that, because you're totally right, Chris. Like, I've literally started the season with like I still watch Planet FPL. Still, I'll throw Andy on, but I'm more likely to watch the ones you've recommended, FPL Harry, and I actually quite like Raptor now as well. Still the shittest name in FPL creation, but he knows what he's talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Raptor's quite funny. He's well, not funny, but he's quite interesting to watch because he takes it from a different angle sometimes. Like, he's quite he's very data driven, but also he's a university lecturer in psychology and stuff, so he has quite interesting ways in how you should make decisions and that sort of thing, because he does like the wheel of destiny and this sort of thing, where it's kind of like you tell me what you want and then I'll spin the wheel or flip a coin, and while that's going on, you'll make the decision in your head as what you want it to be. And then if you're happy, that's it. It's just kind of like, if you're happy it lands on that decision, you wanted that decision all along. If you're unhappy it's that choice, you actually want the other one, and you should do that, or that sort of thing. So,
that's interesting.
It's quite interesting. Yeah, it's
I think the best guy is Praz. You know, what's that? What's their
question?
called? Burning Questions. I think he's a phenomenal. Just to listen to the way he explains. If you do this, fine, but then you'll have to. He's a. Do you know the way you can tell someone has an unreal brain just from listening to them talk, and it's like he processes stuff as he's talking, and it's just. I think he's amazing. I think he's my number one guy at the moment. I think he's brilliant.
He's got that in common with James, hasn't he? In that they're both good at that, explaining the consequences and the options, and
clearly saying, "Do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen." I think that's what you want.
Yeah. Definitely. I like Big Man Bakar as well. If you've seen his stuff, I know him, he's quite he's like a top end manager, but he's also got an interesting way of explaining how he picks things and that sort of thing. He's one of the ones on the Fantasy Football Hub and stuff. He's a good guy to have on.
So are we that good presenters bad advice, or bad presenters good advice? I'm not sure. We're somewhere in the middle, are we?
We're just the lads down the pub, I think. Talking shite.
Oh, brilliant. Well, yeah, I threw up on the screen before we get out of here, the bottom of the FPL League. Roberto Carlos remains at the bottom. He's not moving anywhere. I don't think he's logged in since game week 1, so he's officially...
We've
got Brandon Williams from Man United. I had a look last week.
Jesus. I forgot he existed.
Yeah.
Rough. But yeah, no one else I necessarily reckon. Oh, Andrew Sinclair, I think he's a Voices of Wrestling guy near the bottom. Just saw Will's name. So I think Will's losing the battle at this point as far
Matty's the business 130 odd.
No, he's above Matty, Will.
Yeah. What number was Matty? Oh, there you
That
go.
one.
Down,
One.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's given up in the main league, definitely. So
He's on the free hit this week now.
Oh, yeah, he was asking you how to do. And
Well,
Rob Reed again.
If he's figured out how to do it, he's on free hit.
Rob Reed used to terrorize every league I was in. I used to get annoyed that he'd be in my personal league. Yeah, guess he just stopped caring this year on it.
There's no money. He's a professional gambler. I think there's no money involved, so it's like,
yeah, he's done. And there's your Jeff. Andy, don't like seeing that.
Oh no, he's having a mare, Jeff. I've said that week after week. -8 Jones, he is.
There's Martin. Give Martin a shout out. He listens on his way to work every Friday morning.
There you go.
Good man, Martin. Had a good green arrow this week.
Like it. There you go. So yeah, Sarr on the bench. Forgot he was
Gundogan.
Oh, it's a good team he has though.
Well, there you go. There you go. Good way out. So yeah, if he stays above your Jeff, there you go. Martin's doing well, but yeah, still all to play for. Still 3 weeks to go. So like I say, plenty to go on there in the different leagues. And like I say, we'll definitely be doing something on the final day of the season. But hopefully we'll be able to have another check-in before that. But before we go, lads, anything else? Anything else you want to mention?
No, not for me.
Andy, got shaken up with Matt?
I've got shite on Monday with Matty. I sat through a load of. I'll give a spoiler. A lot of Fiend matches last night.
Sounds like shite.
Yeah. Or the Red Ring at WrestleMania and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And yeah, GRAPPL-wise, anyone listening to this will know. There's no app anymore, with the podcast that's still going. So
Patreon.com/GRAPPL. There you go.
I was going to say download the GRAPPL app.
As always.
What's that, Jamesy?
CM Punk is correct.
Always. Punk
Joe. Rule. Correct about everything.
They just can't go 60 minutes, Jamesy. I'm not having that.
No, Jesus, no. We don't need that. No.
Not at this point. There we go. But yeah, plenty of podcasts talking about how Punk is correct over on GRAPPL. But yeah, in the meantime, folks, go forth, have a good game week 36, and we will catch you again very soon.
Good night.